Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Irish Breakdown Podcast, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Happy Tuesday. A little bit of a schedule change with the national championship yesterday. We have our buy, sell, hold today. And Brian, I know we have a lot of awesome submissions to get to. I won't waste too much time on an introduction. Just good to be back here in another show. Get to talk about a lot of fun Notre Dame and really just college football topics today, man. It's going to be a really, really good show.
Yeah, I mean, look, buy sell holds are first and foremost, the success of them are about you guys, right? And whether or not y'all are asking great questions and submissions, and there's a lot of those, Trev. So today's success, if this is a good show, we're going to have to really bring it because the submissions are great. If it's not a good show, it's on us, right? And so I'm ready to rock and roll, and we got to dive right into it because if we're going to have any chance of this being less than 4-hour show with how many great submissions we have, we got to get rocking and rolling right now. So as always, if this is a buy sell hold, is for our premium members only in regard to who asked the questions. If you want to get something asked that we didn't get here, or if you're a member and you didn't get a submission in, or if you're not a member and you want to get a submission in, you can throw in a super chat and we will respond to that. Otherwise, we've got these cards ready, and Trevor, we are ready to rock and roll. And as always, Salty Virginia Peanuts is going to get us started with a buy sell hold submission.
Marcus Freeman's ESPN Game Day guest analysis spot performance before and during halftime of the national championship game reflected positively on both him and Notre Dame, effectively ending the continued media spots focused on Notre Dame's college football playoff snub.
I buy everything up until the comma because they're going to kiss his butt and be nice to him when he's there, and then they're going to go right back to shots at Notre Dame when he's not there, basically. So I buy the first part. I thought I thought it reflected well on him. I thought he represented himself well. He said what he needed to say. I did not want to hear Marcus Freeman go up there a month after the fact and complain about how they got screwed over and all those type of things. It would not have been a good look, and it's irrelevant at this point in time to still argue what happened. Now it's about bringing about change. He handled it the right way, and he said what we said, Trev. I mean, in all honesty, he said what he should have said. Like, look, we felt if we played a certain way based on where we were ranked, we were going to get in. Didn't work out that way. But at the same time, we got to make sure we leave no doubt in next year because this year we left out. That's exactly correct. So he said it right, moved on, and then it was about breaking down the game. Because honestly, if I'm a fan of Indiana or Miami, I don't want to hear about Notre Dame's head football coach complaining about how they deserve to be in. You know what I mean? Like, dude, this is our moment. And if as Notre Dame fans, if Notre Dame would have got in, and let's say, Bama didn't make it in, or Oklahoma didn't make it in, or Miami didn't make it in, would we want to be sitting here listening to Mario Cristobal complaining on the set about how his team should have been in over Notre Dame in the playoff? No, we'd be like, look, man, this isn't about you, bro. So I thought he handled himself well, and it reflected well, but it's not going to stop the media people from focusing on Notre Dame being snubbed because that gets clicks.
I was just about to say, not if it continues to make him money. So I'm with you, Brian, buying the first part up until the comma, but ESPN's going to do whatever they need to continue to make some money.
Absolutely right. Next submission. Good one, Salty. Good way to kick it off.
From PJC 1122, buy, sell, hold. The entire playoff field this year dodged a gigantic Notre Dame bullet thanks to ESPN colluding to keep them out.
I'm going to buy that. Here's what I'll say, though. Watching Indiana and Miami battle in the trenches last night, Trev, reminded me of kind of what we talked about yesterday, which is the one concern I had about Notre Dame coming into this playoff was could their offensive line play with the physicality, discipline, and sound structure that we saw from Indiana last night against Miami or even against Indiana.
Yeah.
That would have been my only question. But look, yes, there's no doubt. Look, with all due respect to Charlie Becker and Omar Cooper, I think Malachi Fields is better than all those guys.
Yeah.
Look, Jeremiah Love would have been the best part on the field last night. It's frustrating that you didn't put yourself in a position in the opener to win that game. You should have won that game. You should have won the opener. You should have won in week 3 against Texas A&M. They didn't. Committee screwed them over. And for the love of all things holy, despite Bama losing 2 of their last 3 games by between 21 to 35 points, and in the only game they won in their last 3 games, they got outgained by 100 yards. They moved up in the AP poll, which is an absolute joke. So I just keep giving Notre Dame reason to feel disrespected, please. But yeah, I think the field dodged a bullet with Notre Dame not getting in, no question. Would it have been enough for Notre Dame to win a title? I think they could have beat anybody, but I don't know that they definitely would have beat everybody because of the question marks about the offensive line. But does Billy Schrauth coming back change that? Because he probably would have been back in the there's a lot of those type of things. So we'll never know, and I think that's part of the annoying thing is we'll never know. But at the end of the day, Indiana earned that championship. I mean, they beat their 3 opponents in the postseason 75 by combined 75 points. They earned their championship.
Absolutely. I buy this because I think that Notre Dame was one of the teams that could have went on a run, and I still hold that to be true. But the great thing about a playoffs is it's anybody's games once you strap on the pads and hit on the field. So do I think that they could have made a run? Absolutely. But Miami and Indiana proved last night why would they were the 2 teams playing for the championship. So big picture, I buy. Another one from PJC, buy, sell, hold. SEC people will say that if Indiana played in the SEC, they wouldn't have won it all because of the brutality of an SEC schedule.
Yeah, they're absolutely correct. If they would have played in the SEC 5 years ago, and that's not true of the SEC now. So they can miss me with all that. So, I mean, which SEC schedule are they getting? Are they getting Georgia's? Are they getting Ole Miss's? Are they getting Texas A&M's? You're telling me they wouldn't have run the table if they had Texas A&M schedule in the SEC? Yeah, they kind of would have. So you can miss me with all that. The SEC, you need to worry about like winning bowl games where you're not playing yourselves. Like that's what you guys need to worry about right now.
Yeah, I mean, here's the problem, Brian. Here's the problem with your answer. You're using logic here. And you're actually looking at what their schedules are. This is a 100% buy for me. Whether you had, Oklahoma or LSU schedule or you had Kentucky schedule, it doesn't matter because it's different down there. And so I absolutely buy this. I heard that about Notre Dame when they went on their run. It's like, you lost to Northern Illinois in the regular season. Come down here, see what this ball's about. This is a 100% buy. Yep, sure did.
Twice.
Sure did. We bypassed all of that to wait to play your conference champion and then beat them by 13.
Well, not to mention Northern Illinois gave Notre Dame a tougher game at home than A&M did on the road, or Georgia did in the Superdome. So whatevs. I'm selling that is a fact. Trev's buying that SEC people would have absolutely said that, and we're both absolutely correct on that one, in my opinion. So yeah, I love it. It is so funny how sensitive their fans are. Like last night, I took a shot at – I didn't take a shot. Shannon Terry was responding to Nick Saban's comment about Josh Jacobs, and he's like, well, when I was at 247 with my – he was there at 247 time, we had Josh Jacobs as a 4-star. So I went back because I remember this because I've used his recruitment as an example. In January of – right before he signed, he was a member of the 2016 class. In January, middle of January, they were going to sign a month later in February. Josh Jacobs was unranked by 247. They didn't even evaluate him. He gets offered by Bama on the 29th, commits to Bama, and then a day later gets ranked as a 4-star and then signs with Bama like 5 days later. And he's trying to act like that's a win. So I point this out, and to watch Bama fans like start losing their minds over, well, our staff's good at evaluating. And I'm like, what does this have to do with Bama? Of course Alabama's good at evaluating. That's the freaking point. They would just follow whoever Nick Saban went after, rank them high, and pretend like they got it right. That's the point. But to see SEC fans take that as some shot at Alabama, it's like you guys, have no ability to like comprehend anything beyond it's hot, it's cold, it's wet, it's dry. I mean, that's like the extent of your ability to like comprehend anything. That you're going to take this as like some sort of shot. Like, oh, I'm upset with the Bama bump. I'm jealous of Bama. It's nothing to do with Bama. It has to do with the recruiting services that follow what coaches do, which honestly they should, but then brag about how they got it right. The point being, if he would have signed with Kentucky, he doesn't get bumped up to a 4-star 5 days before signing day. That's the point. They're so sensitive. It's hilarious watching how sensitive they are because I think they know what's happening right now. They see what's happening. they see what's happening, and they're gonna just, you know.
Mm-hmm. From H Fork L7. Buy, sell, hold. The national championship remains up north in the 26-27 season.
Buy, because it'll be in South Bend. There's these pictures of this little circle of where the last 3 champions are from, and it's like, slightly up into Michigan where Ann Arbor is, and then Columbus and Bloomington. It's going to have to be a box next year. They're going to have to get Northwest Indiana in there next year. I like Trev. Yeah, look, unless Joe Rudolph and Chris Ash just completely stink, or unless Notre Dame has just like the worst injury season ever, I love this team for next year. I really do. There's no excuses for next season not to be in the title game again. Now, there's a world in which they get beat by somebody who's just better. Somebody's better than we think they're going to be. You and I had Indiana preseason top 10. They were a lot better than we thought they were going to be. So, yeah, I am absolutely buying the heck out of that.
Yeah, as am I. I mean, look, window in, Brian, we're coming out with our way too earlys next week, right? Our way
next
too early
Tuesday. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Next Tuesday. And how I evaluate mine, I'm going based off of what I did last year. And I'm looking at who returns, who lost what, who's in the best position, looking at schedule. And I'm going to just call it a spoiler, whatever you want. But it's going to be real hard for me not to look like a homer next Tuesday. Because I look at everything all combined, and it's just like, sometimes it comes down to the team with the least amount of questions. And while Notre Dame still has questions, there's teams going into this like, this team could be good, but Ohio State doesn't have an offensive coordinator right now. Like, this team could be pretty good, but oh gosh, they lost 13 starters on offense and defense. So it's going to be a fun show next week. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
Buy, sell, hold from TAI Many. Hope I'm reading that correctly. But buy, sell, hold after a few years of operation. Thoughts on the new clock rules in college football?
I don't mind them. I don't like why they did it. I still think why they did it was stupid. They're trying to pretend like they're shortening games, but they're not actually shortening games. It really was just an attempt to shorten the time of games so they can do more commercials. But I have no problem with it. I buy, because you're still seeing a lot of points get scored. You're still seeing a lot of yards. It's not like the game is just ground down and you're seeing a bunch of 17-13 games because they're just, teams running 40 plays each. The team that won the national championship still scored over 40 points a game this year. So, yeah. I buy it. I don't have a problem with it. I think it works. I think it works. I'm fine with it. It hasn't taken away from the game, I guess is what I'm trying to say, Trev. It hasn't cheapened the game, in my view. Are there as many yards, no, those things are obviously going down a little bit, but not to the point where it's like we're not getting enough of the game as I thought would be an issue.
Yeah, I guess per the game itself, the best way that I can sort this out is I would buy it if I'm watching it in person, and I'm selling it if I'm watching it at home. Just quite frankly, the amount of commercials are ridiculous. And I just, as a watcher, I hate that. I hate when I feel like 45% of the time when a game is on, I'm watching, I have the Burger King jingle stuck in my head for 3 hours after a football game because I heard it 30 times between the start of the first quarter and the end of the fourth. But as it pertains to how the game is actually played, it doesn't bother me. So I guess buy, because I guess there's no real impartial answer to buy, sell, hold.
Yeah. I buy the rules. I sell the reason why they implemented them.
Yeah. From Tatsumaki, buy, sell, hold. The national championship remains up north in 26-27.
Buy. That's my bad. That was a repeat from the previous one. So buy. Yeah, that's my bad.
Then another one from Tatsumaki, buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame will finish the regular season next year with a win over a team ranked in the top 15 of the final regular season rankings.
Buy. I think BYU is going to be a really good team next year. I think Miami's still going to be pretty good next year. Miami didn't have a fluky season, Trev, in that they were some borderline top 25 team the year before, and then they just kind of put it all together. They were a top 15 team last year that honestly we've talked about before kind of got a little bit screwed from a ranking standpoint. The fact that they were behind a 3-loss Alabama team who had crap losses, last year was like it was a bad ranking. So like they've been a borderline top 10 team each of the last 2 years. I don't see that not being the case again next year. I think their schedule is next year's is not easy, but I also don't think it's a gauntlet that they can't handle. You know what I mean? So when you look at A&M's schedule next year, they have to play at Notre Dame, they have to play at Clemson, and then their other 3 road games are at North Carolina, at Stanford, and at Wake Forest. And then at home, they got Florida A&M, Central Michigan, Boston College, Duke, Florida State, Pitt, and Virginia Tech. So you could argue that the 5 best teams they play are Notre Dame, Clemson, Florida State, Pitt, and one of Virginia Tech, Florida State, or Duke, right? So did I say Florida State twice? Notre Dame, Clemson, Pitt, Florida State, potentially, and then one of Duke or Virginia Tech. Well, they get 3 of those teams at home and 2 on the road. So, yeah, I think they'll still be a top 15 caliber team. I think SMU has a chance to be a top 15 caliber team next year. I like that SMU team coming back. I don't know that they'll definitely finish in the top 15, but I think they'll be in contention for it. And I think BYU will have a shot to be in the top 15 next year as well. When you look at SMU's schedule, kind of similar deal. Their road games are at Notre Dame, at Florida State, at Louisville, and then their other 2 are at Stanford, at Syracuse. Then their home slate is UC Davis, Missouri State, Boston College, Cal, Virginia, Virginia Tech, and Wake Forest. I see a potential 10-2 team in there. They just got to hold serve at home against teams they're better than, and then just go 1 for 2 against Notre Dame, Florida State, and Louisville, and that's a top 15 team. So I think between those 3 teams, I think at least one of them has a shot to finish in the top 15. And BYU and Miami are so far, from what I've seen, a consensus top 15 team in the way too early rankings, which is hilarious. I've seen 2 of the way too early rankings that have all 3 of them ranked in the top 25. And one of them, was it the one you did, Trev? Was it Sporting News, or was it On3 or was it ESPN that had all 3 of them in the top 17? It might have been ESPN.
I was about to say Sporting News did not. Sporting News had SMU at 23rd.
Then maybe it was the one that I did last night. Maybe it was that one. I'm going to go look real quick. But one of them for sure had them in the top 17. So let me go find it. Yes, it was. It was the ESPN one because they had SMU 17th. They had Miami 8th. They had BYU 11th and SMU 17th. So for all the people talk about, oh, what an easy schedule Notre Dame has. Well, that's interesting that 3 of the teams that they play are in the preseason top 20. So, whatevs.
Yeah, I'm going to buy this as well. I mean, solely just SMU absolutely could sneak into the top 15 potentially, but between Miami and BYU, I mean, shoot, right now on FanDuel, they released the way too early championship odds. Miami's 10th in potential odds to win the national championship next year. I know they're losing some pieces. I don't think they take as big of a step back as what some other people think that they do. I think that they have a good opportunity to do that. And then same thing with BYU. So it's a buy for me as well.
Yeah, I want to pull up this super chat real quick from Gaboila. Bisa hold its complete hogwash that Carson Beck apparently hasn't taken a class in his last 2 seasons. I talked about this yesterday. Guys, I don't know why you guys are believing this. This is just not true. That's not what he said. He never said he hasn't taken a class in 2 years. Was his answer clunky? Yes, it was. But he never said that. He graduated 2 years ago. You legally cannot be eligible to play football if you're not taking classes. Even graduate students still have to take some classes. They don't have to take full 12 hours. But it's no different than 20 years ago when Matt Leinart was taking ballroom dancing and piano in his last semester so he could play football because he'd already graduated. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's a lot of people framing it. So maybe you didn't see the quote and maybe you're responding to what people have said on social media, but it's an absolute fabrication that Carson Beck said he hasn't taken classes in 2 years. He never said that. He never said that, and it's not true. So I'm going to say it again, and hopefully people will all have heard this by now, but it's just not true. It's just not accurate. Yeah. But I do really appreciate the super chat. And I'm sure there's other people that haven't heard the pushback on that. But yeah, that's that. We had another super chat from Scoobaroo, and then he said, I forgot to put a message. Said Notre Dame's buy so hold Trev. Notre Dame's highest concern by position is at running back.
Sell. This is just how I personally look at this, and I'm going to kind of separate this into two answers. I'm selling it for two reasons. One, if looking at the roster, and I understand where you're coming from here, you lose Jeremiah Love, you lose Jadarian Price, but the highest area of concern right now is offensive line. You lost two offensive captains, two team captains, and Emil Wagner and Billy Schrouth. The health of your center, Ashton Craig, and it's looking like, I understand that there's still time left today for potential portal announcements for guys that put their name in on Friday. But as things stand right now, it looks like Ashton Craig's coming back, but we don't know the state of his health. There's a lot of questions around what Joe Rudolph is going to do. Plus, the other part of my answer, there's just some position groups at Notre Dame where I now just accept that they're just going to be, at the bare minimum, pretty darn good. Running back is one of those positions. I had concerns after, CJ Prosise left, and then Josh Adams came around, and then I had concerns when Josh Adams left, and then Dexter Williams stepped up, and then so on and so forth down the line. Now, do I think Aeneas Williams or Kedron Young or any of the young guys are going to be exactly like Jeremiah Love or Jadarian Price? No, I don't. But whoever steps in as RB1 and whoever's in the rotation, I have extremely high confidence in that they're going to be productive and be an integral part of the offense. But that's definitely not my highest concern position on the team.
What is?
Offensive line.
Offensive line? Fair. I'd say still probably tight end would probably be mine. My offensive line would be mine if we find out Jagasol can't play again.
Yeah.
Then it becomes Then it becomes one.
That's totally fair too.
But Subaru, thank you very much for that super chat and for the buy so hold. And we can keep on rolling with another one from Tatsumaki.
Righty. Buy so hold. If Notre Dame is highly seeded in the 26 college football playoff, and if the 12-team format is still in effect, then it would be better for Notre Dame to be a 5 seed with a round 1 home game than a top 4 seed with a round 1 bye.
Yeah, I personally buy that. I've always felt like we 1-7. That's the record of teams that get buys. And Notre Dame would be even in a worse position from time off because they wouldn't even get to play in the ACC, SEC, or in the SEC, ACC, Big Ten, or Big Ten championship game. And so like they would get an even longer bye than anybody else. That's one of my concerns for next season. I'm not going to lie to you. But if they're 12-0, then they're going to play the 8 or 9. And of the teams that have won so far, the only one that won was the 1 seed. And I will say this, I do think that the bye proves detrimental to the teams that get the buys. I absolutely believe that. And you could argue that in every case, the lower seeded team was the better team. You could argue that in every game except for one, that was Bama in Oklahoma. Bama and Indiana. I don't know that I buy that Ole Miss was a better team than Georgia, however. I don't necessarily buy that. I don't buy that Miami was better than Ohio State this year. I don't. I do think the time off for Ohio State hurt them. Because look how sloppy Miami looked in the first 3 quarters against Texas A&M. They got to work all those kinks out. If they'd have played against Ohio State like they did against Texas A&M, they'd have lost by 2 touchdowns. So I don't think that is great. Having said that, if Notre Dame's as good as we think they are, they should still be able to play the 8 versus 9 because when Oregon lost in the 8-9 game last year, they were playing the number 6 team in the country, not the number 8 team in the country, because they still had the conference champion. The 4 buys were still the 4 highest seeded conference champions. So Arizona State and Boise State jumped ahead of Ohio State, knocked them down to 8, knocked Notre Dame from 5 to 7. And then Georgia at number 2 didn't play the 7 seed. They played the 7 seed, but they played the 5th ranked team where they should have been playing who was 7 and 10 last year? Would it have been oh, give me a second. Let me look up. I used to know this, but let me look up who was if we had this year's seeding last year. So if you go back to the 24 season, if it was like this year, let's find the college football playoff rankings, final rankings. Okay. So Georgia would have played the winner of Indiana and SMU if the rankings were the way they were this year. I like Georgia in that matchup. And then Texas would have played the winner of Ohio State and Alabama. And actually, it would have been, Ohio State and Arizona State. That would have been Ohio State. I liked the lower seed in that game because the lower seed eventually won that game. And then Oregon would have played the winner of Indiana and Boise State. I think Oregon wins that game. Just with what we know, but we still don't know if the week off would have hurt Oregon the same way. If Oregon would have played against Indiana or Boise like they did against Ohio State, they might have lost those games. They looked like they didn't want to be there. So there's so much of that factors into this, Trev, that makes me a little concerned about that. But I mean, it is what it is. That's the rules. And I don't want Notre Dame to be the 5 seed from the standpoint of if they're the 5 seed next year, then I'm probably a little disappointed in their season, or it could be a scenario where they go 11-1 and there's 3 undefeated teams in amongst the conference champions. That's possible too. But I hope that they're a top 4 seed because I think that they will be and should be undefeated next season.
Yeah, in an ideal world, they go 12-0 and they get a bye. Personally, I would love for there to be another home playoff game in South Bend. That was electric.
Yep.
And that was so much fun. So, I mean, what the numbers tell us too is that when you get a bye, odds are you're not going to make it past the round that you're playing in. So, I'll buy this because personally, I would like for them to get a home game.
Now, in the proposed 16-team playoff, which I think is stupid, by the way, because they're having 13 play 16 and 14 play 15 as playing games. So I think is absolutely stupid. The next round would still be on home fields, correct?
I would assume so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was curious about that.
So wait, so if it's a 16-team playoff, they have, you said who's playing in the?
So basically what I have seen, and I'm going to look this up. Apparently that one of the proposals, the lead proposal is that instead of just going 1-16, 8, 2-15, 3-14, they're talking about having play-in games, which would be like 13 plays 16, 14 plays 15. And so what I don't know is, so you'd have 16 teams, and then does 1 and 2 get another bye after that? Like, that's what I'm not sure of, which would be kind of ridiculous in my opinion.
And I wouldn't even consider that a 16-team playoff. That's a 14-team playoff with a play-in round. Like, that's all right.
Yep.
Well, in the spirit of today's show, sell that.
Yep.
From Paulie B. Irish, buy, sell, hold, all separate. So first one, Notre Dame football is cursed.
Sell. A, I don't believe in curses. B, things are going pretty well for Notre Dame football right now. Yeah, they haven't won a championship, but I want to remind people that they're 24-4 the last 2 years, and Marcus Freeman in his last 3 years has gone, 34-7? Like, they're fine. It's time to take it to the next level. That's where it's at. But cursed is Marcus Freeman leaves after last year for an NFL job. CJ Carr transfers to somewhere else. That's cursed.
Yeah.
They're not cursed. They're a victim of their own mistakes, and they have to start overcoming that.
And then CJ Carr will pass for 3,400 yards and 30 touchdowns in 2026.
Buy. Yeah. Include postseason. Yeah, I buy that.
Yep. As do I. And then Notre Dame is still the best football team in the state of Indiana.
Notre Dame is still the best football program in the state of Indiana. I would buy that. For 2025, are they the best team in the state of Indiana? No, they're not. I think they're the most talented. I think that they would beat Indiana in the head-to-head. But you know what? Their own mistakes. Like you said, well, Indiana had an easier schedule. Well, how is going on the road and playing Oregon really that much harder than playing at Miami? Like, they had to also beat Ohio State on a neutral field, which I would argue is harder than beating Texas A&M at home. I mean, so even before the playoffs, you could say their 2 toughest games, in my opinion, are similar or equal to Notre Dame's 2 toughest games. Now, the timing was different, but they handled their business, and Notre Dame didn't. Do I think Notre Dame would play on a win on a neutral field? Do I think Notre Dame would have beat them in the playoff? I do. Do I think it would have been a much closer game than last year? I absolutely do. But the fact is Notre Dame didn't earn it, and Indiana did. And no matter how much spin we try to put on it as Notre Dame fans, you can't take that away from them. Notre Dame and Indiana played one common opponent on the same field. Indiana won, Notre Dame lost. You can enter a bunch of buts there, and that's true, and some of them are very valid. But the fact is, that's the reality. They both played Miami in Hard Rock. Indiana won, dominated the entire game, led the entire game. Notre Dame never led and lost. Indiana's the best team. Is Notre Dame still the best program, which includes big picture? Absolutely. Indiana was the best team in 2025. They earned it. Everything else is woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yep. Absolutely. Super chat from Mark Couch. Appreciate you. Buy, sell, hold. Sean Davis's theory on the recent Lucky Lefty podcast about the Big Ten and SEC attempting a power play on Notre Dame.
I didn't hear Sean's point, so I can't really comment on it. Do I think that the Big Ten and SEC are attempting a power play on Notre Dame? No, I do not. Do I think the Big Ten is attempting a power play on Notre Dame? Yes, I do. I think the SEC is not an anti-Notre Dame conference from a leadership standpoint. I think the Big Ten is.
From Josh Buffo, buy, sell, hold. Cignetti's national title at IU is more impressive than Saban's Alabama titles.
If you're going to talk about comparing one to the other, I think you can make a case that you could buy this by saying, look, this is Indiana. They've never been great before. This, and this. And then that's very fair. But my counter to this, which is why I will say sell, is his title is more impressive than some of Nick Saban's titles. But there were also years in Nick Saban's tenure where in order to get to a championship, they literally had to go through a gauntlet. I mean, literally. It was a brutal gauntlet to play in the SEC West early in Saban's tenure. So, no, and there's things that about the way that the game is now that gives Curt Cignetti advantages that past Indiana coaches never had. It's just a reality. Now, would any of them won? No, they wouldn't have won because they weren't great coaches. He's a great coach. But it is incredibly impressive. But I still say that there were some years that Nick Saban had to have some monster seasons to win a championship because of how loaded the SEC West was. And they had to beat some darn good teams. I mean, 2015, that Clemson team in 2015 was pretty flipping good. You know, I mean, that was a good football team. So, yeah, I'll scratch that. And I think the 09 Bama team had a heck of a schedule that year, and they went undefeated as well. So, yeah, I'll sell that. But it was very impressive. Very, very impressive what Cignetti did.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could argue that Cignetti's individual title, big picture at IU, is more impressive than an individual title than what Nick Saban won. There is an argument to be made there, not one that I'd be willing to make. But to your point, what IU did is extremely impressive, but I'm selling this. I mean, one national title is not more impressive than titles like that. It's just, I mean, we talk all the time on the show about how, you know, hey, before we start talking about Marcus Freeman and building him a statue, like maybe winning multiple, before we start talking about him being, you know, one of the greatest Notre Dame coaches of all time, we talk about him winning multiple titles. Doesn't take anything away from what IU did this year. But I also think we'd look at some other Alabama teams a little bit differently if there were some, you know, if there was a 12-team playoff in some other years too. You know, I think that 2019 Alabama team could have made some noise in a 12-team playoff. I still don't think they would have won. I still think LSU 2019 would have won the national title, but
that rematch against them would have been a lot tougher because
absolutely
they would have had to beat that really good Alabama team twice, which would have been tough. I mean, there's other years. I mean, you talk about that 2013 Bama team might have been in the playoff. That team might have been dangerous getting into the postseason. So there have been years where maybe Bama does make a run. There's also some years where if Bama plays in the 12-team playoff, they don't win the title. I don't think they win the title in 2011 if there's a 12-team playoff.
Right.
I mean, I think the two best teams in the country that year were Stanford and Oklahoma State. In my mind, the Fiesta Bowl, I think it was Fiesta Bowl, maybe it was Fiesta Bowl that year was the de facto national championship for me. Those are the two best teams. But yeah, it's fun to talk about. But it was impressive. And I don't want to take anything away from what he did, just like I don't want to take anything away from Saban's Alabama titles.
Another one from Josh. Buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame and Coach Freeman get 2 national titles before Georgia, Bama, Ohio State, or IU make it back to a title game.
Well, I'm going to sell that because if Notre Dame wins a title over the next couple of years, one title, there's a decent chance they're going to have to beat Ohio State or Georgia in one of those games. So, yeah, I'm going to sell that one.
Yeah, sell for me as well. As high as I am on this Notre Dame team and where the program is at, like state of the program, I still have to see them win one before I talk about them winning multiple and then doing it before either one of these teams make it back.
And I'm not even looking at it. I'm granting that they win 2 titles, right? Just for the premise of the question, I'm granting 2 titles. My point, Trev, is if they win 2 titles, there's a pretty good chance they're going to have to beat one of those 4 teams in one of those title games.
Yeah.
That was kind of where I was coming from. I mean, so yeah, I sell that one. I sell that one. I like where your head's at, though. I love the optimism today. It's so much better than what we've been dealing with for the last month.
Man.
Now we're talking about Notre Dame winning 2 natties and, so I dig it.
I would so much rather have to kind of pull the reins back than convince people Notre Dame is good.
Yes, yes.
Buy, sell, hold from Josh. BSPN did everything they could to take jabs of Coach Freeman during his appearance at the national title game, especially Pat McAfee, asking who would win in a fight between Freeman and Cristobal after the alleged accusations against Coach Freeman this past week. Classless and unprofessional, while Coach Freeman was exactly the opposite. Hope he stays at Notre Dame forever.
Agree with that last part. I didn't take it that way, so I'll sell. I think what Pat McAfee said was unprofessional. Like, if you know about that situation, that's not something to joke about, in my opinion. But Freeman laughed and dapped him up. So, like, okay, like if it didn't bother him, he was the one in it. Then it shouldn't bother us. And look, Marcus Freeman is not one to fake, comedy in a moment where he's being insulted, as James Franklin found out last year in the Orange Bowl. So he thought it was funny. And I don't think Pat McAfee, I can't stand Pat McAfee. I don't dislike him as a person. I don't like his presentation style. I don't like what he brings to the table. I just don't enjoy that. But I've never watched him in a game, and I don't watch it a ton, but like when I've watched him, I've never took the jokes and jabs he makes to be anything other than a goofy dude from Pittsburgh trying to have some fun and acting like a yinzer. I mean, you know what I mean? And I don't mean that as insulting. One of my best friends is a yinzer. You know what I mean? Like, that's his personality. I don't think he means anything by it. I think he's just having fun. I think people that know him, when he does that, they laugh with him. I think Freeman took it in stride. He knows Pat McAfee a lot better than we do. So I don't think he meant any malice by that. I think that's just him being a goofy dude. You know what I mean? And I don't mean goofy dude in an insulting way. He's just a guy who wears tank tops on shows. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just him. I didn't take that as him trying to. There's other dudes that I think maybe might have been trying to take some little jabs potentially. I didn't take Pat McAfee's that way at all. And he's been a pretty pro Notre Dame guy the last couple of years. So I just didn't take it that way.
No, the thing that I enjoy about Pat McAfee is he's an authentic person. Like, he acts the same way on air that he would if you were going to a bar and getting beers.
Agree.
That's who he is. And some people don't like it. I don't mind it. But I didn't look at anything that he said of like, yo, this guy, like, how ridiculous is this? It's like, I mean, no, I sell everything except for the last part that says Freeman was exactly the opposite. Hope he stays at Notre Dame forever.
Yeah. Just so people ask me the question, what's a yinzer? Because I've had some people say that before. I'm just going to read you the definition of it from AI, and because it fits it pretty well. A yinzer is a quintessential person from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, known for their strong local identity, blue-collar roots, love for Pittsburgh sports, and distinctive dialect called Pittsburghese, especially using the second-person plural pronoun yins. So that is something I had never heard before till I lived in Pittsburgh when I coached at Duquesne. And a buddy said, "Hey, what are yins doing this weekend?" And I said, "What?" I looked at him like, I have no idea what you just said. What are yins? Yins going anywhere? I'm like, "Bro, what's a yins?" He goes, "Yins." And he looks at me and just rolls like, "You guys." Like, it's the Pittsburgh word that I would, as a Southerner, say, "Y'all. What are y'all doing tonight?" Or Trev may say, "What are you guys doing tonight?" In Pittsburgh, what are yins doing tonight? So yinzer, that's what that means. It's not a derogatory statement. It's in my opinion, a form of admiration, because it's a very different culture there. One that I took aback at first, but when you get to know them, as I said last week, they come across very gruff, very tough, very blue collar, very like, I'm a descendant of steel workers and coal miners. You know what I'm saying? But as I've said before, if I had to go to battle, or if I had a need, if something was going on in my family, first person I call is my buddy who's a yinzer. No question about it. So it's a term of endearment, in my opinion. But yeah, it's like that's what it means. So it's not an insult. But if you it's like one thing, Trev, if you know, you know. You know what I'm saying? If you've met one, you know what I'm talking about. And that's what it is. That's what a yinzer is. Somebody said it's like Utes from My Cousin Vinny. Exactly. But that's more of a pronunciation of a different word. This is a different word. It's a completely different word. Yeah, it's pretty funny. But that's what a yinzer is. And somebody said it's the Northern y'all. No, it's the Pittsburgh y'all. It's a Pittsburgh term. And when I say Pittsburgh, it's Pittsburgh and the surrounding areas. It's not like if you live a mile past the border, you're like, we don't speak like that. We talk proper here. It's not the way that it is. And so like I said, I say with admiration, but it's also very descriptive.
From Dirtbag Jake, buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame got robbed of a legitimate opportunity in a national championship.
I buy that in theory, but again, I look back and say what we said when it happened. Should Notre Dame have been in the playoff? Absolutely. Did they get robbed out of a playoff opportunity? Absolutely. But they also contributed to that job by not doing what they needed to do in the first two games of the year. And I would also argue by not putting pedal to the metal against Pitt and Stanford as well. I wonder if Notre Dame would have, let's say, given up one touchdown to Stanford and then popped another couple on the board and won 56-10, and then not let Pitt score at the very end, and maybe they win and kick a field goal, make a chip chop field goal, and maybe they win 40-9. Maybe we're having a different conversation. Maybe. I don't know. But that's the whole point. Though doing those things allowed for the committee to then nitpick your resume and screw you over. So, I mean, I buy it in theory, but at the same time, it's like I'm kind of ready to move on from it, from the standpoint of still reliving them getting robbed. I'm not ready to move on from it. That wound ain't going to heal. You know what I'm saying? It's still going to be there, and it's going to drive me every single day if I'm a Notre Dame player or coach to say, we're going to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I buy they were robbed that day. But because of what they did on August 31st and September 13th, they put them in the position to be robbed. That's why their whole slogan is "Leave no doubt." Like, it's not just because it's cool to say. It's you can't leave that up to chance. And that's exactly what they did. And that's exactly what we talked about after they lost to Texas A&M. So, yeah, they got robbed that day, and it's unfortunate. But don't put yourself in that position next time. Buy, sell, hold. A freshman will have a big impact on offense, defense, special teams in 2026.
Well, I'll take this one of two ways, one of two ways, Trev. One is a freshman from offense, defense, or special teams will have a big impact in 2026. If that's the way you're asking, that's an easy buy.
Yep.
Somebody will. The bigger question is going to be, will a freshman have a big impact on offense, on defense, and on special teams? And I think that's the bigger question. On offense, I think there's a decent chance of that happening between Caden Finley, between Ian Premer, between Javian Osborne and Jonas Walton. I could see one of those four guys for whatever reason, stepping in and making an impact this year. Maybe it's a Bubba Frazier or something like that. Defensively, what's funny, Trev, is the defensive class is, in my opinion, even better than the offensive class. But they're also walking into a much deeper returning depth chart, which could make it a lot harder for them to make an impact. Getting DJ McKinney and Jaden Sanders is going to make it a little bit harder for a Kari Adams or an Aiden Pouncey to make an immediate impact. Even someone as good as Joey O'Brien, bro, you gotta pass up Luke Talich and Ethan Long and Brandon Logan before you're going to be on the field. That's not going to be an easy thing to do. That's not going to happen on day 2 of spring ball. You know what I mean? So it's going to be a lot tougher. Going to the portal and getting, bringing Armel Mukam back and getting Tion Gray and Francis Brew is going to make it a little bit tougher for Elijah Golden and Tiki Hola to step into the mix. But they're all capable of it. But I still think, Trev, at the end of the day, I still would buy that because I think one of the 2 edge players is going to be able to make an impact in a pass rushing situation at the very least. Either Dunham or Utade. And then on special teams, I think we'll see that as well. I think either as a returner, kicker, or punter, we'll see a freshman make an impact in 2026.
Yeah. Yep. I do as well. I'm with you. From Ballpeen Shillelagh, buy, sell, hold. Indiana is the second FBS team to go 16-0 in a single season. The first was Yale in 1894. Buy, sell, hold that you will see another team go undefeated and win the national championship in the next 5, 10, and 20 years.
Buy. The only reason we went from 1894 to now is because no one could even play 16 games.
Yeah.
I mean, up until last year, it was literally impossible. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. It was incredibly unlikely to have a 16-game champion because you would have to have one of those NCAA exemptions that lets you play a 13th game because you played Hawaii on the road, and then you also then make it into your conference championship game, and then you would make it into the Final Four. But that only started being a reality in 2014. Between that, you couldn't play more than 12 games in a season. 13 at the most if you played in the conference championship game and title game for a long time. And then you started getting to the 12-game schedules, then you could do it. You could win 14 because you could win your conference championship, which didn't start till the 90s, and then a bowl game. So it was impossible to do for 100 years.
Yeah.
I mean, literally impossible to do. So it's not like this, wow, no one's done. Yeah, nobody could do that. I mean, there's been a lot of undefeated champions since then. None that won 16 games or sniffed 16 games because it just wasn't possible. So I'll buy that it'll absolutely happen again. In the next 5, okay, the longer you go, the more likely it happens. But I think we could see it in the next 1.
Mm-hmm.
That's the mood I'm in today, Trev.
I love that. I love that.
Same state. It's a little bit more north.
A little bit more north. And buy, sell, hold again from Ballpeen Shillelagh. Buy one, sell one, hold one of the following conditions to play football in. Inches of snow and it's still coming down, 90 degrees and humid, rainy downpour.
Buy 90 degrees and humid, hold inches of snow, sell rainy downpour. As a quarterback that didn't have large hands, rainy downpour is the absolute worst. Snow still coming down. I mean, the ball is going to get wet, but it's easier to dry off. But also, it's easier to keep my hands dry in snow than it is rain. So that would be my answer.
There's also kind of an element of it's still kind of fun to play snow or play football in the snow. It is just not fun, in my opinion, to play in the rain. I don't like it. It's just, if you've ever played and you're just sitting there at halftime in wet pads and then having to go back out and play in the second half, playing in the rain is for the birds, and you can miss me with that. I mean, I'll take 90 degrees and humid. I'm not saying that I would enjoy it, but of these 3 unideal situations, that's the one that I would mind the least.
The other thing too, Trev, is the position we play factors into that.
Mm-hmm.
If I was an offensive lineman, I probably would have a different answer to this.
Oh, sure. If I was like a linebacker, I would love to play in the rain.
Yeah.
I get that. It's just, that it's just going to be you and a running back meeting in the hole for 60 minutes. Yeah.
Because when I was a kid, we loved playing in the rain because we had that little football that you could easily grip, the rubber Broncos football or Notre Dame football or whatever that I had. and you could grip it easily, throw it easily. But then it was fun, like sliding. I mean, so it's just as you get older, it's not as much fun.
Yeah.
But I would imagine if I was a guard or tackle or D tackler or something like that, middle linebacker, I probably would like it a lot more.
Buy, sell, hold from Kerry later. Miami is going to have a similar letdown season to Notre Dame after making it to the ship, going 9-3 and missing the playoffs. If it's a 16 team, maybe they make it, but get smacked in the first round.
I mean, making it back to the playoffs the second year, even if you get smacked, is not, to me, a letdown season. I mean, in today's era of turnover, I think that shows a level of consistency that I can appreciate. Let down next year, I mean, part of it is let's see how they finish in the portal. I think they're going to end up getting Darian Mensah, but if they don't, that might change things a little bit. But I look at Miami's schedule, and I'll say it again. They have road games at Notre Dame and at Clemson. Those are going to be tough. Although I don't think Clemson is by any stretch unbeatable at home. Not anymore. They lost to Syracuse and Duke last year at home. And then they've got road games at North Carolina, at Stanford, at Wake Forest. Then home games against Florida A&M, Central Michigan, Boston College, Duke, Florida State, Pitt, and Virginia Tech. I'll be honest, Trev, I'll be a little surprised if they're 9-3 next year. Barring just some mass exodus from their football team that I don't anticipate beyond just normal. I mean, I expect Ruben Bain to go pro and some things like that. But barring a mass exodus of their team to the NFL and the portal, I think Miami will still be good next year, and I think they have a manageable schedule. But to your scenario, I still think Miami has a shot to get in the 12-team playoff next year. Because if they go 10-2, I think there's a pretty decent chance. Even if they go 9-3, Trev, there's a pretty decent chance they're in the conference championship game because only 2 of those losses will be in the conference.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna sell that too. I mean, I'll have to go and do a little bit more of a deep dive, but just hearing their schedule initially, I think Miami's probably a 10-2 team again next year. I mean, just because you lose pieces doesn't necessarily mean that you're due for a letdown. I mean, well, I know they're losing Carson Beck, but like, what is that? You could argue that their playoff run was also not solely because of Carson Beck. He made some impactful plays, but it was mostly because of their defensive run game. I think Miami's going to be a team that's still built around the trenches. They're still going to find ways to grind out games and win them. So, yeah, I'm gonna sell this. I don't, and plus, like how they're built. I mean, they still have not lost a game by more than like 8 points since 2023. Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess unless they face Notre Dame again in the first round of the playoffs, if that's how it plays out, I don't think they'll get smacked. I don't. Just based on their style of play. Their style of play alone and their ability to slow the game down. So I'm going to sell that. Another one from Kerry later. Buy, sell, hold. Indiana is going to have a letdown season, going 10-2 and losing again in the first or second round without the same lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, we just have a different opinion on what a letdown is. Like, not winning the title again, to me, is not a letdown or even a step back. That's just football. That's just the reality. The question is, are you still a contender again? And I think Indiana has a shot to be a contender again. If Indiana goes 10-2 next year and makes the first or second round of the playoffs, that tells us that Indiana's here to stay as a powerful program. That's not a letdown. Like, it's Indiana. A letdown to me would be they lose 3-4 games, and them losing 3 games next year to me would be a letdown because they were better than Miami. Miami going 9-3 is a 1 game off of what they were this year. It's 1 game different. Indiana losing 3 would be a big letdown because that's 3 games that they didn't lose this past year. But if Indiana goes 10-2 and gets back to the playoffs, what that says is Kurt Cignetti's for real. You can't use the excuses about he brought a bunch of JMU players with him anymore because they're all gone now. And, they're here to stay as a Big Ten powerhouse because if Indiana goes 8-2 next or 10-2 next year, Trev, they've got to do that against a schedule that includes Ohio State at home, USC at home, Washington on the road, Nebraska on the road, Michigan on the road. Like, you go 10-2 against that schedule and you're in the playoffs, that's a pretty good season again. And I think it would show that what we saw was not a fluke. it was legit. They're a legit good football team. Because if they go 10-2, having to rebuild their roster the way that they're going to need to rebuild their roster, that tells me they're here to stay. So I sell that would even be a letdown season. If you were to say Indiana, if you were to say, okay, Biso hold this prediction, Indiana's going to go 10-2 and then lose in the first or second round without the same lightning bottle, I'd say buy. I would buy that result. I think the result is I'm with you on that. What I dismiss or what I don't buy is that would somehow be a letdown season. I don't think that'd be a letdown season. What say you, Trev?
Yeah, I mean, I buy the middle part. I could absolutely see Indiana going 10-2 and losing in the first or second round of the playoffs. I honestly, and I'm probably going to say something that people aren't going to like, but Indiana's last 2 seasons were less of a lightning in a bottle than what Notre Dame was. Look, I love Notre Dame, obviously, and I'm extremely high on them, and I'm very excited for next week's show. But Notre Dame in the last 4 seasons under Marcus Freeman's made the playoffs once, played for the national title in that year. Indiana's made the playoffs 2 years in a row and just won a national title. I don't know if I'm willing to call that lightning in a bottle. Now, where I'm going to be very curious to see if Indiana can respond is they won't have a transfer portal class that's made up of players who are very familiar with the system. Their transfer portal classes are going to look more like the LSUs. It's going to look more like the Texas Techs. It's going to, quarterback from here, running back from here, offensive tackle from here, receiver from here. It's not you have your core guys from JMU and Old Dominion and guys at the G5 level that you bring up with you. I'll be very interested to see how Kurt Cignetti handles that. But that being said, I'm not willing to call this lightning in a bottle. When you do something for 2 years and you do that in back-to-back seasons, that's hard for me to say flash in the pan, lightning in the bottle. Like, nah. Another one from Carrie later. By so hold, Notre Dame's biggest trap game next year is North Carolina's Bill Belichick after Rice, but before the triple option Navy and then Miami.
No, I don't think so. It's not before Navy, by the way. You're looking at the 2026 schedule where it shows Notre Dame plays at North Carolina, and then the next game listed as Navy. They play North Carolina on October 3rd. They play Navy on October 31st. The reason it's that way is because 4 of their games haven't been placed yet. So there will be games placed in between North Carolina and Navy. They're not going to give Notre Dame 3 weeks off between playing North Carolina and Navy. So the schedule just hasn't been completed yet. So North Carolina will be after Purdue, and I don't know, it'll be before either SMU, Syracuse, Stanford, or BYU. If they play BYU on the 10th on the road, 3rd straight road game, BYU, North Carolina in the middle, maybe. It's hard for me really to say what the trap game will be because I don't know what the structure of the entire schedule is going to be. I do think there's a chance that North Carolina could be better next year. They've had a pretty good portal offseason, Trev. They've picked up some. I think they've done better in the portal this year than they did last year.
Yeah.
I'll say that. I think the foundation of what they're building on is pretty bad. So I'm not concerned about it. I just, for me, I have to see what the entire schedule looks like first. I don't know who they play after North Carolina. None of us do. Notre Dame might. Where's at Syracuse going to be on this schedule? Where's BYU going to be on the schedule? Because that could result in another team being a trap game. You know what I mean? Like, let's say they play Navy on October 31st, and then they play Miami on November 7th. What if October 24th they're playing at BYU? Well, now Navy's my trap game. So it just depends on the makeup of the schedule, and I can't really tell you what that's going to be because we don't know who's going to actually be in between North Carolina and Navy.
Yeah, for those reasons, it's a hold for me as well. From Crying Belly, buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame eventually gets commitments from its top 2 wide receiver targets in Julius Jones Jr. and Quentin Burrell.
It's really early, but I like where Notre Dame is at the present moment, so I'll buy that for now. A lot of work to be done, but I'll buy that for now.
Then buy, sell, hold from Tyler Benji. ESPN's way too early top 25.
Yeah, so just kind of buying it or selling it overall. Trev, I mean, overall, I mean, just okay. So you got Indiana 1, Texas 2, Notre Dame 3, Georgia 4, Oregon 5, Ohio State 6, Texas Tech 7, Miami 8, Ole Miss 9, A&M 10, BYU 11, Oklahoma 12, USC 13, Louisville 14, LSU 15, Iowa 16, SMU 17, Michigan 18, Washington 19, TCU 20, Alabama 21, which I think is freaking hilarious. Penn State 22, Arizona State 23, Tennessee 24, Utah 25. Buy or sell? Do I buy that it's a relatively okay top 25? Yeah, it's fine. It's there's definitely things on there I disagree with, but it's not going to be anything outlandish. They got Texas too. I will not have Texas too, but I actually think Texas is going to be better next year than they were this year. Are they going to be what people think they are? No, they're going to get overhyped again. But I mean, who else are you going to put there? Yeah, there's a lot of unknowns around college football, and the portal pickups aren't even done yet. That's kind of why we're going to wait till next week to do ours, because we want to see a little bit of dust settle of who's Miami going to have. What if Ruben Bain decides he wants to run it back and win a title next year, decides not to go pro? Well, that's going to change my opinion of Miami quite a bit. You know what I mean? Than if he goes pro, kind of thing. So, what if Miami's not able to get Darian Mensah? That's going to change my opinion of Miami a little bit. So I'm holding off for now, but there were definitely some in there that I agree with Tyler, or that I disagree with. I think Texas is too high at number 2. I have no problem with Indiana being 1, because my stance on that, Trev. Georgia at 4 just kind of makes me laugh, but they're going to finish there, and Oregon at 5 I'm good with. I think that I kind of LOL a little bit at USC being 13. I laugh at LSU being 15 and Michigan being 18. It's like, okay, can we have those teams show something first? Before we kind of just jump them into the top 15. Yeah, I mean, I think LSU is going to be improved, but they're coming off a 7-6 season. There's a long way between 7-6 and top 15. And if I'm Lane Kiffin, I would I don't want to be ranked that high. Like, leave me out of the top 25. I mean, because you remember when Notre Dame went 8-5 in back-to-back years in 11-12 or 10-11 under Brian Kelly, and they were unranked to start the next season. It's exactly where they should have been the next season. They went 8-5, but they ended up going to the title game. So it doesn't mean that they can't get there. I just think that's a typical SEC bias there. And there's some others that I thought were pretty bad. I mean, basically, Matt Campbell gets the leftovers from Penn State of all the good players have left. Basically, almost all of them have left. He's bringing a bunch of Iowa State players who went 8-4 in the Big 12. And Penn State's a top 20 team, top 25 team, based on what? Yeah, they got Rocco Beck. Yeah, Rocco Beck was at Iowa State, and they went 8-4 in the freaking Big 12. You know what I mean? Like, so there's some things like that, but I don't have any like, oh my gosh, that is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. I didn't have that reaction. I've seen worse way too early top 25. Sure. Way worse. Like, for example, the CBS one that has South Carolina in the top 25.
Yeah, and Michigan
3
in the
and
top
9
10.
South. Yes, there's way worse. And maybe that's why I'm not as upset about ESPN's, because theirs is one of the better ones. Like, PFF has Notre Dame at 7. It's like, you guys are like literally the lamest group of people I've ever seen in my life, other than like, RJ Young and some of the other weirdos that just do stuff on social media that don't actually do like any real analysis.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler, I guess it's a buy for me too. Like, now that I've started putting together my own way too early lists and preseason rankings and post-spring rankings and all that stuff, dude, it's hard to make those. I mean, it's when I was sitting down trying to make mine, it's like, yeah, do I think having Georgia at 4 is silly? Yeah, but it's like, I mean, they're still going to be in my top 10, because I don't know if I could put 10 teams above a Georgia. Like,
and as much as we haven't liked Georgia the last 2 years, they still finished both years in top 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so unless they're doing something egregious, like, not ranking IU in the top 10 because they're still looking at the name on the on the jersey or the logo on the helmet, or not putting Notre Dame in the top 5. It's just stuff like that. Or if people are just copping out and putting Ohio State at 1. Like, that's one that I've seen quite a bit. And it's, to me, it's just like, I just don't understand what it is. I really don't. But not saying that, just because I don't think they should be at 1, they should be at 25th. It's just 1. I don't know, man. That seems a little steep. But unless it's something egregious, I'd buy.
Yeah.
Getting into part 2 of the Irish Breakdown podcast, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. We got the buy-sell hold today, and we have B-Jam and 41 getting us kicked off in part 2 here. C.J. Carr, Arch Manning, and Dante Moore will be the Heisman quarterback finalists next year.
I don't hate that. I'll buy that, B-Jam, and I think that's a possibility. Look, I think Mensa at Miami, I think, could put up big numbers. I mean, he put up big. Like, put it like this: if Darian Mensa, who's in the same league he was in last year, puts up the same numbers at Miami that he put up at Duke, he's in the Heisman conversation. He's not at Duke. Like, think about this, Trev. So let's say that Darian Mensa goes to Miami, and while also playing in the ACC, leads his team to a conference championship, which he did this year, and throws for 3,973 yards, 34 touchdowns, and only 6 picks. Also has a rushing touchdown. You don't think he's going to have a shot to be in the Heisman Trophy conversation? Now, he may not be a legitimate guy that we think is one of the top 3 or 4, but I mean, he's in the same league and he'll have better players around him. And Shannon Dawson's offense puts up numbers. So I think he has a shot if he ends up at Miami. I think there's some other players. I think Jeremiah Smith could end up having just a monster season that put him in the conversation. But he said Heisman QB finalist for next year. But I mean, there's some others. I mean, if Josh Hoover repeats what Fernando Mendoza did this season at Indiana, and Indiana's good again, he'll be in the conversation. I think Julian Sands got a shot to be in the conversation. Whether we think he should or not is going to have a shot. An Ohio State quarterback is going to have a shot to be in that conversation. So, I mean, I absolutely think that those guys, in my opinion, have a great shot. And look, I think the Arch Manning stuff is very interesting, Trev. But let me just remind people this. Julian Sands finished 4th in Heisman voting this year. So, yeah, he's number 1 of all returners. There's nobody in college football that has more higher ranking in last year's Heisman ranking. The other thing is why it's a little too early is Trinidad Chambliss going to be allowed eligibility? Gunnar Stockton is the second highest ranked quarterback in Heisman votes coming back this year. It is a joke, by the way, that Gunnar Stockton got more Heisman votes than Trinidad Chambliss and Haynes King, by the way. An absolute joke. But if Trinidad Chambliss is granted another year, whether, he'll be in the conversation again, in my opinion. Gunnar Stockton will be in the conversation because he's the starting quarterback on a potential top 5 team. I think there's others. But if you were to ask me who I think the 3 best quarterbacks are going to be next year, there's a good chance it's going to be there. Because when I was going to say about Arch Manning, I feel like Arch Manning is going through what a lot of sports debates are now, which is a debate, and the same thing with politics. It's a debate of 2 extremes. Nobody has a normal debate anymore. Nobody has a normal conversation anymore. It's always extremes. He sucks. I think he's overrated, or he's, the best player in the country and number 1 on Heisman, this, that, and the other thing. And it's kind of I don't think either of those are true right now. And I think there's a lot of people who ignore his inaccuracy, some of the bad games he had. But I also think people that are kind of, maybe Arch Manning haters a little bit are going to completely ignore the fact that last year in the kid's first year as a starter in 13 games, compiled 3,562 yards, had 36 total touchdowns, and only threw 7 picks. That's pretty good. And if you look at how Arch played down the stretch, that was who Arch is. And Trev and I said this is exactly how his season was going to go. He was not going to get off to a good start, and people were going to bang on him, but then he would get better and better as the year went on, and that's exactly what happened with Arch. And I think also Arch played behind a pretty terrible offensive line all season and still put up those numbers. So I think Arch is trending in a good direction. He'll continue to get overhyped because his last name is Manning. But I think some of that overhype is a little bit more justified now because now we actually have a full season of him as a starter where he had over 3,500 yards and 36 touchdowns in his season as a starter. So we expect C.J. Carr to get better in year 2. Well, I expect Arch Manning to get better in year 2 as a starter. I mean, his numbers were better than C.J.'s as far as like yards and touchdowns. C.J. was way better in other areas. But, so you look at Arch, C.J. had a way better, higher completion percentage, way higher yards per attempt, way higher quarterback rating. Arch had way more, touchdowns. He had much more effective runner, things along those lines. They both do really good things. I could absolutely see them in that, all three of those guys in the conversation next year.
Yeah, I could too. I mean, right now on FanDuel, C.J. Carr is now the current favorite at plus 800, followed by Arch Manning. Dante Moore's actually 6th. He's behind Jeremiah Smith at 3rd, Julian Saint at 4th, and Josh Hoover at 5th. So I could absolutely see those guys being in the mix for sure. And then you always leave room for that one sleeper guy. I mean, if at this time last year, right after Notre Dame played in the national championship, you're like, hey, Fernando Mendoza is going to win the Heisman. It's like, okay, do you live in Bloomington? It's like, but I mean, here we are. I mean, 2 years ago, if you would have told me that Ashton Genty was going to be a Heisman finalist, second place to Travis Hunter, I would have been like, yeah, okay. Sounds good. It's probably going to be, Dylan Gabriel and, just a lot of people from big schools. So you always leave room for that one kind of wild card to make the list too. I'd be very interested to see who that's going to be, but those three will be in the conversation for sure and should be in the conversation.
Yep.
I'll add that too. By so hold, Christopher Burgess Christopher Burgess will be a defensive breakout star next year, not just a role player.
I'm going to sell that initially because you used the word star. If you would have said he'll be a defensive breakout next year, I could have bought that. Because I think he's going to go from a guy that didn't play meaningful down this year to, I think, a key contributor next season. But I don't think he's going to become a star next season. It's kind of like Bryce Young last year. I don't think it's until year 3 that type of breakout can happen. Year 2 is about taking that first jump and becoming a factor. And then year 3 will be when a potential breakout happens. So I'm actually absolutely expecting Chris Burgess to be a factor for Notre Dame this year, but I don't want to start putting too much pressure and too much hype on him just yet. Let's see what he does in spring practice first and see how things look. But I'm very high and very high on his future and very optimistic that he's going to play a role in 2026.
Breakout, absolutely. Star, we'll wait and see. He is also potentially switching positions too, which will play a factor. Take some time to develop him on the inside as well. So a lot of different factors at play, but I could absolutely see it. Absolutely. And for BJM and 41, buy, sell, hold, you would rather have C.J. Carr as the Notre Dame quarterback over Brady Quinn next year.
Buy. That's an easy buy. Brady Quinn's 41 years old. Hasn't played football in years.
No, you beat me to it. I looked up how old Brady Quinn was.
C.J. Carr, so did I. C.J. Carr is Notre Dame's starting quarterback. And that's who I want to be their starting quarterback next year. It's fun to talk about, but like, is he better than Jimmy or what? I just want to enjoy C.J. Carr for what he is, and I'll enjoy Brady for what he was and Jimmy Clausen for what he was. But the fact is he is their quarterback. So, yeah, I'll buy that. And Brady's 41. Jimmy's creeping up closer and closer to 40. You know what I mean? Like, they haven't played football in a while. So, yeah, I'll go with C.J. Carr.
Same page. Another one from BJM and 41. Buy, sell, hold. It is more likely that Notre Dame plays 4 ranked teams, Navy, SMU, Miami, and BYU next year than just 1.
I'll buy that, but I don't buy that with great conviction because I do think there's a lot of question marks next year. And I think if there's just 1, it's not a given that one will be Miami. I think I'm leaning more towards there's a surprise in a good way as opposed to like a bunch of teams underachieve. I think Kalani Sitake has earned the right for us to assume that his team is going to be ranked next year. I think Rhett Lashley has kind of earned that right a little bit to say his football team is a team that should be taken seriously and a team that we should have some respect out for. So yeah, I mean, I'll buy that. They finished this year 28th. Beat the national runners up. It's pretty good. It's pretty good result. So, yeah, I'm fine. I'll buy that. But it's not just Navy. I think there's other. We've talked about this, Trev. There's other teams that could maybe potentially end up being top 25 teams. I think Navy's a possibility. I think right now Navy's the next best possibility. But does Syracuse get back to what they were 2 years ago, or do they look like they were last year? That's a very fair question. Wisconsin's had a very good portal off season. Their schedule is a lot more manageable this season. Maybe they can crack into the top 25. I mean, they got to play at Iowa, at Maryland, at Penn State, at UCLA. Those are tough games. Home against USC, home against Rutgers, home against Minnesota, home against Michigan State, and then, of course, Notre Dame on neutral field. They pull off a couple upsets in some of those games. Maybe they're a top 25 team. I wouldn't bet on it, but I think there's a couple other teams that could potentially maybe sneak in there. But Navy, I worry about next year because I need to see what they look like without Blake Horvath. That's the big thing for me. What are they going to look like with him gone? If you're a Navy fan, you're excited about the potential of Braxton Woodson because of how well he looked against Notre Dame, how good he looked against Notre Dame, but then also how he looked when Horvath went down against South Florida. He came in and in less than a half rushed for 100 yards. So I think there's some optimism there, but I don't know that he's the thrower that Blake Horvath was, and that's the thing where they're clearly trying to move in that direction. And when they've lost that ability the last couple of years, they haven't been as effective.
I'm going to buy this, but I think there's a chance that 2 of the 4 won't be ranked when Notre Dame plays them.
Yeah.
But they work their way into the rankings at the end of the year.
I was looking at it from end of the year. That's why I talked about Wisconsin the way that I did. There's no way in the heck they're going to be ranked in the first week. Whenever I talk about rankings, I always talk about end of the year. Because I think when you play teams is not super relevant. Remember in 2015 when Notre Dame beat number 14 Georgia Tech?
Oh, yeah.
And they had beaten first 2 games, they blew out Alcorn State and Tulane. That team finished 3-9. Just like I'm not going to take away credit from Brian Kelly for beating Michigan State in 2013 when they were unranked and they finished the year 13-1. No, that game looks more impressive now that we realize now how good Michigan State actually was that year. And so I care more about how they end. I want to get to the next one, Trev. This is going to be, I like this one. Let's do this.
Buy, sell, hold, meatball sub, cheesesteak, Italian sub.
That's so I will say I will buy a cheesesteak if it's made the right way. And there's 2 ways to make a good cheesesteak. One is the Philly way, which is basically just Cheese Whiz, which is I thought was going to be terrible. And people kept telling me a real cheesesteak, a Philly cheesesteak is the best thing ever. And I'm like, okay, what's the difference? And somebody explained, and it's like, that sounds terrible. It's Cheese Whiz, basically. You know what I mean? It's like Cheese Whip. It's like, no, that's going to be terrible. We played, I think it was Ursinus, is I think who we played in 2002. And that's near Philly. And our offensive coordinator, his wife was I think a DA or assistant DA in Philly. So he was there a lot. He knew all the good Philly cheesesteak places. So he actually had Philly cheesesteaks, authentic Philly cheesesteaks delivered to so our players ate them after the game. And I was like, yo, I judged unwisely. These are so good. That's obviously good. And then the other ways, I've had them with provolone or Swiss, but with mushroom and onions and stuff that are not the Philly way, but still really good. But if you do it right, a cheesesteak is a tremendous meal. I buy that one. I hold meatball sub, although a well properly done meatball sub is also very good. I'll sell Italian sub.
Yeah, I'm probably the same order. Look, I'm just not a picky eater. When it comes to, if I get offered any one of these 3, I'm going to eat all 3. If I had to pick, if it was just up to me and Lauren comes home, she's like, hey, I want a sandwich tonight for dinner. What do you want? I would go in that order.
Yeah.
From Eddie82, buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame will give up less than 100 rushing yards per game, rushing average in 2026.
Buy. I think they'll be better stopping the run next year. Yeah, I think they'll improve.
Then by so hold, the Irish will set an all-time scoring average record in 2026.
Also buy. I mean, they did it this year. I think they are going to be even better next year. So I'll buy that.
Then another one from Eddie82, the Irish will be top 4 in pass defense efficiency in 2026.
That I sell. I'm not as confident that Chris Ash can put together that type of defense to where they rank in the top 4. I think they can get close. I mean, they were what, 9th, 10th this year? Let me look it up. Let me see. They were 9th this year, but they were a lot closer to being, 20th than they were to being top 4. So if you just look at the differences. So I don't know that he can get that much better, but I don't sell it with like tremendous. I also think part of it is going to be, I think teams are going to throw a lot more on Notre Dame this year because I think they're going to be up big a lot.
Yeah.
Now that could help them in efficiency defense because they pick off a lot of passes, but I think that their pass efficiency defense this year was a little bit ranked higher from an efficiency standpoint than it actually was in production because of how many interceptions they had and the fact that, I mean, there were some games where they got on teams so quick that the defense could just pin their ears back. And look, not playing against Blake Horvath, had a little bit of an impact on things, in my opinion. But I think overall they did some pretty good things. Eating up the NC State offensive line and not letting CJ Bailey go off. They played some good quarterbacks last year. But you caught some breaks also. No Blake Horvath, no Steve Angeli. Stanford was a hot mess by the time they played. I think they had some benefits from that, but I think they'll be top 10 again. But this time, I think they're top 10. Like they could finish 9th again next year and be better.
Yeah,
because when you break down the film, you're like, okay, this was a little bit more earned. It wasn't driven by poor quarterback play and a lot of interceptions. It was actually a more consistently good unit. That's why I say ranking stats don't always tell you the entire story.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this before too. Not all rankings are created equal. I mean, Notre Dame finishing 9th in pass efficiency going up against the quarterbacks that they face this year, like that's a win. I mean, that's I am all for that. So I'm with you. They don't have to be top 4. Everything that any question that I answer, I'm gearing towards the road to winning a national title. Like, I don't think Notre Dame has to have a top 4 pass efficiency defense to win a national title. If they do it relative to the competition, they're somewhere in the top 10 to 15. I'd be a happy camper.
With a run defense is holding people under. And Trev, you had a good article out yesterday that looked at past champions on defense and the job that they've done in rush defense. And for the most part, with the exception of teams who were like super elite on offense, like generational offenses, which ironically happened in back-to-back years, like 19 LSU and 2020 Alabama, almost every national champion has been a elite run defense.
Yep.
And Indiana showed that this year as well. They were an elite run defense. What's funny is the team that they had the worst game against was Old Dominion in the opener. They gave up 218 yards. They only allowed in the next 15 games, they only allowed more than 100 yards twice. And that was to Penn State and Miami last night. Miami ran for 110 yards, and what was it, like 60 of it almost was on one carry?
Yeah.
What was his touchdown? Was it 57? It's like 57.
That sounds right. I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, let me look it up because now it's going to bother me if I don't get that right. But so you go 27-21. Mark Fletcher's touchdown run was 57 yards. Yeah. So on the other 20 carries, they had 53 yards rushing. Okay, that's pretty good. So I still think being a dominant run defense is the way to go if you want to win a championship. I do. Force teams and then throw the ball, then you can be opportunistic. So say, look, guys, I keep saying it. If Chris Ash does all year in 2026 that what he did in the last 7 games of 2025, this will be an elite defense. And he will be a driver of that. We don't have to like him or dislike him or love him or hate him or whatever, but the fact is the defense in the final 7 games was elite. because they're quote unquote, I don't think they played great against USC. They still shut USC down. You know what I mean? I mean, they still held USC to one of their lower outputs of the season scoring wise. And I think that, that impresses me. So I just want to see him continue that over the course of a season.
Yeah. From Eddie82, buy, sell, hold. Logan Thomas will be a regular part of the D-end rotation, not just passing down sub packages.
I'm going to hold on that for now. I need to, A, see that he can be healthy for an entire offseason. And B, I just have a hard time with a guy that weighs 210 pounds being a first and second down player against a team that's not a throw heavy team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or you're up big. So I got to see Logan this spring. It's going to be a huge spring for Logan Thomas. Huge spring. So I'm going to hold on that one for now.
Yeah, it's a hold for me as well. Logan Thomas in weight is closer to Leonard Moore than he is Boubacar Traore. He's got to put on a little bit more weight and stay healthy for him to be like an every down guy, in my opinion. So, and buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame will get at least 3 more depth pieces in the transfer portal that will be on the 2026 roster.
3. I'm going to sell that, but you're not necessarily far off. I do think they're still trying to add some depth pieces, and maybe a quarterback, a running back who's like a Max Hurleman type of running back, like a special teams guy, not so much a guy that's going to come in and compete at running back, like what Jake Tefelsky was, like Max Hurleman was. I could see them going and getting a linebacker that's, again, being brought in, or a DN that's being brought in to be a special teams guy or a scout team guy. I still think there's a chance they're going to get guys like that. So 3 maybe is a little bit much, but I think they're trying.
Then buy, sell, hold. Irish Breakdown will have at least one representative at the BYU game next year.
Buy. Yes, and I know who that representative will be. This guy. Yeah, exactly. So at least one, for sure.
From I Am Tenzin, buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame isn't done in the portal yet.
Yeah, now they may not get anybody else, but they're not done trying to add guys, as we just talked about.
Buy, sell, hold. Leave no doubt is the official slogan of Notre Dame football in 2026.
Absolute buy.
Yep. I don't know what else it would be. Buy, sell, hold. You and T-Rev would try to do pieces focused on defense first more frequently to work on your egregious offensive biases.
Sell. It's no bias. It's facts. There we go.
From DMND13, buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame goes 15-0 with 15 double-digit wins next year, or 16 if the playoffs expand. Yes, I'm buying this, and yes, I know it's absurd.
I'm going to sell. There will be at least one game or 2 games where it's a single-digit game. I mean, even LSU in 2019 had, 2 single-digit games that year? They beat Auburn, I think it was 23-20, and then they beat Bama 46-41, I think. Let me go look at their scores in 2019. So, yes.
Was
actually,
Texas
they had 3.
also?
They had 3.
Yeah.
Texas 45-38 over Texas. And then they beat Auburn, 23-20. And then the next week beat Alabama 46-41. So even that year, they had 3 single-digit games. And the 2 of the 3 teams that they had close games with weren't even that good. I mean, Texas was a solid team that year. Texas was 8-5 that year. I mean, they lost to Iowa State and Baylor and TCU and Oklahoma that year on top of losing to LSU. Auburn that season was a decent team. They weren't a great team. They finished 9-4. They lost to Minnesota in a bowl game. So they were a good team, but there were better teams on the schedule that they beat more convincingly than those 2 teams, including in the postseason. So I sell that. Now, I could see them going 12-0 with no single-digit games in the regular season. I'm not going to predict that either, but I think that's possible. It's possible. They could punch a late scoring against BYU on the road and win by 10. You know what I mean? I could see that.
Yep.
But then doing that in 3 to 4 playoff games, even Indiana couldn't do that this year. And they were pretty dominant against a very weak schedule. And they had, 3 or 4 single-digit games this year,
Iowa
right?
was 1, Penn State, Miami.
Yep. And then
Was it Old Dominion?
No, that was 13. 5 against Iowa. 3 Penn State. 3 Ohio State. So they had 4. So they had 4 this year. The Big Ten championship game was also single digit. So, yeah.
By so hold, there will be less SEC bias nationally next year, partially because of how vocal so many people have gotten about calling out their bias this year. Not zero bias, just less.
Sell. It's a scene from Trading Places. Have you ever seen that movie, Trev, by the way?
Mm-hmm.
Great movie. Because it's not about real analysis. It's about making money. And that the SEC is the bread and butter of ESPN's college football. I mean, that's their team. Their next best team they have is the ACC. Next best league they have is the ACC. So no, it won't be. It'll be they're back. Lane Kiffin and LSU, they're going to hype them up. Bama may not get as much hype because they kind of embarrassed them, but LSU is going to get a ton of hype. Florida is going to get a ton of hype. Auburn will get hype, with their new coach. There'll be plenty of hype in the SEC. It'll just be maybe some different teams get hype. But that's it. No, it'll still stay that way. They don't care. As long as they're making money, they don't care.
Yeah, I mean, because of the coaching changes, you could argue that it'll be more next year than this year.
A&M's going to get a ton of hype, justifiably. They've earned it. Some of the teams that are going to get hype next year have earned it. But others will get it just because they're – I mean, look, one of the networks put South Carolina, who went 3-9 in the top 25. Well, they're going to bring back – so that's fair. I mean, could they end in the top 25? Sure, South Carolina could absolutely end in the top 25 next year. But what warrants them beginning the season ranked in the top 25? Name me another league that could have a team go 3-9 and be in the very first initial postseason, way too early top 25 than the SEC. Isn't one. And that's not even ESPN doing it. That's CBS.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's not gonna change. If the semifinal teams are all Big Ten, ACC, Big 12, and Notre Dame, and there's no SEC team even in the semifinals, it's still not going to change because it's not about that. Oops.
From DMND13, buy, sell, hold, you would prefer to go back to the polls determining the national champion rather than implement the absurd, ridiculous, heinous, despicable 2014 playoff suggestion from the Big Ten.
So I love this submission, by the way, because my answer has literally changed in the last 2 hours. I was actually leaning towards buying this when I first saw the question. Then I saw the AP come out with their top 25, and they dropped Notre Dame behind a 4-loss Bama team. And the coaches poll dropped them to 11. The coaches poll came out and had Notre Dame ranked 11th behind Oklahoma and Alabama. So, yeah, I mean, they had BYU and Notre Dame ranked behind Oklahoma and Alabama in the final ranking. So I'm like, no, we don't need those guys deciding the championship either. At least in the 2014 playoff, it's still going to be decided on the field. So there's some discussion that's been said that Tony Petitti's fighting for that because if they go to 24, it somehow triggers to where ESPN can't host all the games or something. I don't know. Somebody would have to show me the evidence that that's actually the case, but I've seen a lot of people say that. Yeah. And yes, of course, guess who is a pro 2014 playoff? I love him, but Mr. Contrarian. But no, a 2014 playoff would be stupid. We don't need replacements for conference championship games. We need to just get rid of conference championship games and go right to a 16-team playoff 2 weeks later. We don't need all this other crap because those are nothing more than a different way for us to make money. It is nothing about are we getting the best teams into the playoffs? And that's not what the Big Ten is fighting. They're not fighting because they think this is the fairest way or the best way. This is about how they want to make more money. That's all this is about. So no, the 2014 playoff would be stupid. Name me a year where you could say that the number 16 ranked the number 16 seeded team would have had a shot to win a championship. If you go since 2014, maybe one or two teams might have even won a game, and that's even unlikely. Now 17 to 24, all of a sudden going to get in there and do damage. Come on,
Yeah,
come on, give me a break.
yeah. I sell the 2014 playoff, but I would still rather have a playoff than having voters decide a national championship. I grew up in an era where it was always decided on a field.
Well, it was always decided on the field, but then the voters would vote on who amongst that got it. But again, they lose me when they do crap like they just did. So.
From DMND13, buy, sell, hold. Kurt Cignetti should be a college football Hall of Famer, even if he retires right now.
I'll buy that. I mean, he's won 2 championships at 2 levels. You know, he won a championship at JMU. He won a championship at Indiana. I mean, that is an incredible accomplishment. He's been a head coach now for, I'm pulling up his resume real quick. He's he's won multiple national titles, I believe, as an assistant coach, correct? He was at Alabama just one. He was at Alabama for their 09 title team. So he was an assistant on the title team. He's 2-time coach of the year, AP, 2-time AFCA coach of the year, 2-time Home Depot coach of the year, 2-time Walter Camp, Big Ten, you know what I mean? And now he's a 2-time national champion. And he's been a head coach now for 6, 8, 11, 13, 16 seasons, and he's got a record of 146 and 37. That's pretty good. And he's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams that finished ranked in the top 10. 3 at James Madison, the last 2 teams at Indiana, and then at JMU, they went 19-4 in his first 2 years as brand new members of the FBS. I mean, they went from FCS to FBS and went 19-4 in his first 2 years and won games over Power 4 teams. So yeah. Yep.
He would be for me. I mean, when you do something for the first time in a program's history, I think that carries a lot of weight. And then you add in all of his other accolades. Yeah, it's a buy for me as well. Buy, sell, hold. You will watch Band of Brothers before the 2026 season starts.
Buy. I got to, man. I've got to do it.
Is that like your preseason movie?
No, I've never seen it before, and I keep saying I'm going to watch it, and I've never watched it. And people know how much of a history buff I am, but I want to watch that, and then I want to watch The Pacific. They did a series, it's like a movie-ish, but it's like about the Pacific Theater that I want to watch as well. So yeah, DM, I'm definitely going to get that done. I got to get that done, man. You've got my number. You got to stay on me about that one because I gotta watch it. Gotta watch it.
From Grateful and Thankful JS, buy, sell, hold in the month of September versus Wisconsin, Rice, Michigan State, and Purdue. So we'll take these one at a time. Buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame's average yards per play is 7.5 yards.
Buy.
Notre Dame's average win point differential is 30.
Meaning like a minimum?
Just like average when you add it all up.
Yeah. Meaning like if it's 32, it's not, I was wrong is what I'm saying. Like it doesn't have to be 30, correct? It could be, what I'm saying is minimum 30. Is that how we're taking that question?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I buy that.
And buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame's defense does not allow more than 325 yards in any of these games.
You've got Wisconsin, Purdue, Rice, and Michigan State.
Mm-hmm.
I'll sell that because I feel like one of the teams, Purdue or Wisconsin, is going to put up like 75 yards against the backups when they're down like 50, something like that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'll buy that.
Same page here.
Yeah.
Buy, sell, hold from Grateful and Thankful JS. Chicken parm, chicken Alfredo, chicken teriyaki.
You want to take first crack at that, Trev?
Sure. I mean, chicken teriyaki is just kind of the outlier between these. Like, two of these are like very much Italian or Italian-esque. I mean, my favorite food is chicken parm, so I'm buying that. That's just me specifically. Then I'll hold chicken Alfredo and then sell chicken teriyaki.
So we're going favorite here. My favorite thing to eat is, well, that's a tough one. I mean, I like chicken parm with Alfredo, pasta. I'll probably say I'd probably go chicken Alfredo. I love making homemade Alfredo sauce and making that. So I make that. I haven't had that in a while because I'm not eating pasta right at the present moment. But I love chicken Alfredo. I love chicken parm. Teriyaki I can do, but I don't love it as much. We were actually at the Melting Pot in up in Michigan, Trev, Ange and I, when we took that little mini vacation. And one of the ones they have theirs is they have a teriyaki, like one of the like a steak teriyaki that you can put in the fondue place. And that was pretty good. But like I like it, but I don't like love it like Angela does. So I would put that third. So buy Alfredo. I'm gonna hold the chicken parm on the side until I'm done with the Alfredo. Then I'll eat that next.
Nice.
And then I'll sell the idea of having chicken teriyaki with those two things. There you go.
Well done, sir.
Yep.
Grateful and thankful. Buy, sell, hold. With Notre Dame playing at Clemson, Virginia Tech, and Florida State within the next 3 years, I ask. Been to all 3 games against Notre Dame. Let's say you guys best pregame. Tigers running down the hill. Osceola with Renegade. Enter Sandman.
Okay, I have been blessed to be at all 3 of these places for a Notre Dame game. It's pretty awesome. The Osceola in Renegade was absolutely, in my opinion, the coolest of all of them. I mean, the crowd was electric. I think horses are absolutely majestic creatures, and to watch that dude come out with a flaming spear and spiking into the ground in midfield, that's a really cool thing to see in person. Like a really cool thing to see in person. The Tigers running down the hill, it's not so much that's cool, but it's right between the student section. I mean, it's a cool thing. It's to see it once. The second time I saw it, it was kind of lame. But I'll still go with that over Enter Sandman, because Enter Sandman, it's like the song starts playing and they don't come out for several minutes. It just plays as you watch them walk all the way from their locker all the way out. And by the time they get out there, it's just kind of like lame. It's way cooler on TV than it is in person. And I've been there twice, and I thought, well, okay, maybe the second time, because I was there in 18, and then I was there again in 21, and both times was like, yeah, pass.
Yeah, the only one I've seen in person is the Tigers running down the hill. Now, that was in 2018 when they played Louisville at home and they won like 73-7. So, I mean, it could have been that. I thought it was very underwhelming. Now, it was a day game, but I just, for whatever reason, when I watched it on TV, I thought the hill was like much bigger than when I was there, like in person in the stadium. It kind of looked like a drainage ditch. And so I was like, yeah, that was okay. But like the angle of the camera where they're at, like shooting up, like, and players like jumping past them, looks a lot cooler on TV than it does like in person when you're like,
Where were you?
The 50-yard line.
One?
We were sitting in like where like families sit, because the family we went
so
with,
you were up kind of higher.
No,
I was curious,
I mean, we were like,
it was right in front of us, and I wonder if the angle makes it a little bit of a difference. Because like where we're sitting in the immediate, it's like you can see them in the middle of the student section. So the student section going crazy, and you see the players kind of coming out. So it looked a little bit different, but again, it was okay. It's nothing like Osceola running out with Renegade.
Yeah,
Spear.
we were like 30-yard line seats, like 5-6 rows above the sideline, like closer to the student section. So like, I mean, it was cool. I just had this built up in my mind of what it was going to look like, and I was like, oh, all right. The Florida State one in person, I bet, would be sick.
It's very cool, Trev. Very cool. I saw it, and it was 2014 before the Notre Dame Florida State game. It was pretty cool. And the crowd, and when he spears it, like the crowd just, I mean, it was pretty cool.
That's sick.
It was pretty cool. Yeah.
From C. Rich 73, buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame will have an 800-yard rusher.
Buy.
Notre Dame will have an 800-yard receiver.
Buy.
Then Notre Dame will have a top-rated recruiting class for next season.
I'm going to sell that they'll have the top-rated recruiting class for next season. I don't know that the class is going to be as big next year, but I think it'll be really good again. I do. The top-rated, I mean, this year's was only the top-rated by one service.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. What hurts it is that Teddy Gerard reclassified, because you had a top 75 kind of quarterback to build around. Doesn't hurt you practically, but it hurts your on paper grade.
From Tommy Guns 44, buy, sell, hold. More and better pre-snap motion.
Buy. I think with a more experienced quarterback, we'll see more of that.
Yeah.
I think one of the benefits to not being as movement heavy with a young quarterback is the coverage structure doesn't change. And he can make better reads. The more you move around, the more, you have to adjust to, okay, when we go to this, they're going to roll to this coverage and that coverage. Well, they don't always do that. So you've got to be able to think quickly. And I think maybe that's part of the reason we didn't see it as much this year. I don't know that for a fact, but that's just a guess. So I think we'll see more of that next year.
And then more post-snap switches.
I think as they pass more, we'll see more of that, yes. Yeah. I think they're also going to have a little bit of a faster receiving core next year overall, tempo-wise, but then also the players, and I think that factors into it as well.
This one's a fun one from Tommy Guns. Buy, sell, hold. A phase-on to phase-on hook and lateral, or some other play that involves both brothers touching the ball on the same snap.
Can I hope by that one? I don't think that's going to happen at all, but how cool would it be if Jordan Faison takes a reverse like late in the game, you're up 27, and you put Jordan Faison in the game and you run a reverse like the 15-yard line, and he pulls up and throws it to his brother for a touchdown? How cool would that flipping be?
That'd be sweet.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen, but that'd be awesome.
Most likely it would probably be on like special teams or something. You put both of them back as returners and they run like that fake kick return reverse or a kick return reverse like they did against Indiana.
Yeah. I mean, Jordan's thrown 2 passes in his career, right? What are the odds that he's going to throw it to Dylan? I think that's more of the question mark. But that'd be flipping awesome.
Tommy Guns, buy, sell, hold. Indiana will have the fewest first-round draft picks and the fewest drafted players overall for the reigning national championship team.
I have no idea what the fewest number is. I have no idea what that number is. I will say this. They'll have fewer than what we've seen from recent champions, just because I think there's going to be some bias built in. Like Georgia had 15 one year. Ohio State had 15 last year. Michigan had an insane number the year before. And I don't know that we'll see as much of that. Part of that's going to depend on who goes pro. If Omar Cooper comes back, then maybe, it's going to be tougher. But it'll be few, but it's not going to be like they have 3 guys drafted. I mean, they'll have at least 1 drafted in the first round, maybe 2, depending who comes out. I think you've got several potential day 2 picks on there. It just depends on who comes out. Like if D'Angelo Pons and Omar Cooper both come out, then that changes things a little bit. If they both come back for another year, then that also changes things a little bit too. So, less than recent teams, but I don't think it'll be like they have 4 guys drafted. Mendoza in the first round, and then they don't have another guy drafted till like round 5. I don't think it'll be like that.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you there. And buy, sell, hold. Trash Can Day, although not the actual name of the episode, was the best episode of Hey Arnold.
This is all you.
Well, this wasn't the question that I guess I had pictured when you asked if I knew about Hey Arnold. I
asked you, said, "Hey man, do you know anything about Hey Arnold?" You're like, "Yes, I do." I said, "Okay."
Yeah, I knew the show. I didn't. All right. Well, Tommy Guns, I guess I'll give you my best answer. I mean, the one that I remember was the food eating contest episode. I always thought that was pretty funny. Not trying to, put a date on anybody else in the chat, but like when Hey Arnold came out, I was like 4. So like I remember watching it, like I knew that it was a show. I remember the theme song. I remember the food eating episode, but not enough where I can recall like titles of episodes. So I'll buy Tommy Guns. If you like it, then I will buy it as well. How about that?
Sounds good to me.
From JB Hunt, 1989, buy, sell, hold. Many of us believe Notre Dame will have its best shot to win a championship since the early 90s. If they can manage it, their run will be most similar to 25 Indiana, an undefeated, good complementary football, both sides of the ball. 24 Ohio State, great defense and great offense, but takes a while to put it all together. Or 21 Georgia, dominant defense, okay offense.
I think it's the order you put it in is most likely. I think that there'll be an undefeated good team that's complementary on both sides of the ball. Indiana, I believe, was a top 5 team this year in scoring offense and scoring defense. They were number 2 in scoring defense, and they were number 2 in scoring offense. Actually, they finished number 3 behind Notre Dame. But as we talked about yesterday, I don't count that because they had to play 3 playoff games and Notre Dame didn't. And I don't believe they scored above their season average in the postseason. So they scored 38 against Alabama, 27 last night, 56 against Oregon. So that's 40.3. They finished at 41.6 behind Notre Dame at 42.0. They fell behind Notre Dame because they played 3 postseason games and Notre Dame played none. So, I mean, Notre Dame ranked higher, but I'm not giving Notre Dame the win on that one. You know what I mean? They were a top 3 scoring defense, or a top 2 scoring defense and a top 2 scoring offense throughout the season. And that'll look a lot more like with Notre Dame. Could it take a while to put it all together? Maybe. I'd be surprised, but maybe. I see no scenario in which Notre Dame is just okay on offense next year. None. That would be the most shocking thing that could potentially happen next year.
Yeah, I agree. I'm definitely selling 21 Georgia. No, I just don't see that being a scenario. Like there is a world where it's 2024 Ohio State, but they still go undefeated in the regular season. I mean, taking a while to put it all together, just to me means that they don't come out of the gates and beat Wisconsin and Michigan State by a combined 80 points, or 60 points. So there's a world where I could see that, but they still go undefeated. You don't get Miami until November 7th. You don't play Navy till October 31st. Like I don't know when the BYU game is going to be scheduled. So there's a world where that happens, but I'll buy 25 Indiana. Good complementary football on both sides. But I think 25 Indiana and 24 Ohio State are relatively close. From Bobby Frey, buy, sell, hold. Assuming everyone is healthy, Notre Dame's highest upside offensive line is left tackle Will Black, left guard Anthony Knapp, center Ashton Craig, right guard Charles Jagasaw, right tackle Gerby Lambert.
I buy that 5. I would just flip Knapp and Craig. And here's why I would flip Knapp and Craig. People are like, why would you not have Ashton Craig at center? And here's the reason why. In the last 2 years, Ashton Craig has began the season as a starting center and only played a combined 9 out of Notre Dame's 28 games because of injuries. I don't want a fourth straight season where you have to have a new center at some point in time, because that actually happened in 22 or 23 as well. And I don't know that Ashton Craig is going to be ready to start the season. I also don't know that I want to take a chance of him getting injured again. And once again, you have to start your center, a new center. I am just not a big fan of that action. And if I'm going to take a risk of injury, it's just easier for me to process out a guard who got injured and put somebody else in than a center, because a center has so much more responsibility up front than a guard does from just before the ball is even snapped. He's the quarterback of your line. And I'd like to have a guy there that has a little bit more of a track record of being able to stay healthy. It has nothing to do with Ashton Craig's ability to play the position. It has nothing to do with his lack of leadership. He's always been mentioned as a great leader. It's simply about dependability. And for all the great things that we believe about Ashton Craig as a player, the facts are what they are.
Yeah.
And that is that he played 3 games in 24, got hurt, then played 6 games in 25 and got hurt. That's just the reality of it. Now, some of that's bad luck. I understand all that, but that's the reality of it. He's been hurt. And I don't want to have to, and you can't guarantee that you won't have to, something may happen to Anthony Knapp. But probabilities are such that, well, this guy has gotten hurt every year and this guy has not. And so I would much rather roll with Ashton Craig at guard than center. And I also think for a guy that's had knee injuries, the guard moves a little bit more than the center because of how quickly teams like to get a body on the center. A lot of times the center gets stuck in some situations where they're hit and he's not moving his feet as somebody falls on his knee. That's happened to Ashton Craig both times. Maybe at guard, there's less of that. He's the guy coming to work as opposed to I'm engaged, somebody's coming to work with me. Now he's the guy that's on the movement block, which lessens the chance of that happening. Doesn't eliminate it, but that's why I would go that. So I love your 5. I would just maybe flip it. And I'm not opposed either to maybe seeing how Gerby Lambert looks at left tackle and having Will Black start off at right tackle just to kind of break him in a little bit. And because Gerby only played 1 snap at left tackle last year, but as I said many times, that was the best looking pass set we saw from a left tackle at Notre Dame all season.
Agreed. Yeah, if you could tell me that Ashton Craig was able to stay healthy for the duration of the 26 season, I would absolutely love this lineup.
Sure.
Another thing that I like about this lineup is Anthony Knapp is now your most experienced offensive lineman. Lining him up next to Will Black would be great from a teaching standpoint and helping out Will Black on the field. I would like that too. But yeah, to Brian's point, it depends. And plus, like, let's just say in his scenario, you move Craig to left guard, Knapp goes to center. You even mentioned nothing says that Anthony Knapp will stay healthy there that entire season. You never wish an injury upon anybody, but they're a part of the game. It'd be very easy to then move Craig back over to center, and then you insert, a Sullivan Absher at left guard, or potentially one of the incoming freshmen, or Christopher Tarrick, or one of those guys. So definitely more options that way. But I do think, barring health, this is the highest ceiling starting 5.
I think a more likely scenario, if Will Black starts, is that he'll compete at left guard.
Yep.
I think that's more likely, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Oops, sorry.
From IN Irish, buy one, sell one, hold one, U.S. World War II generals. Douglas MacArthur, Omar Bradley, or George Patton?
Okay, I'm buying George Patton because I don't think there was a better field commander in the American, or maybe in any army. You read stuff that the Germans, the intel communications that they found from the Germans after the war, or even intel that they got because they had broken their code during the war. They feared George Patton way more than anybody else because he wanted to fight. Omar Cooper was a brilliant strategist. I kind of look at it like this. He was also a very good field general as well, but he was much more methodical. He's much more, which I'm okay with. He was just a little bit different. I think big part of war is you striking fear into your opponents. It's like football. We talk about football, right? Like you step on that field and you're already a little bit intimidated. First time you get punched in the mouth a little bit in a football game and you're already intimidated, you're going to kind of cower a little bit. When you're afraid of a general in that regard, and maybe they could times they could do things to get Bradley not to go on the offensive right away. Douglas MacArthur, I shouldn't say this. I'll just say this. He'd be 3rd on my list. So I would sell him. I'd buy George Patton, hold Omar Bradley, sell Douglas MacArthur as just a field general. Now, if we're talking about, let's say we're going to say which of these 3 is promoted to take over as Allied commander. Let's say Eisenhower had to go do something else. Omar Bradley would certainly have been the better choice for like the overall Allied commander strategy over everyone from a general standpoint. You know what I mean? Like the supreme commander of the Allies as a whole. He's much better suited for that. But as far as like a field general, it's hard to beat. It's hard to beat George Patton. I'm just not the biggest Douglas MacArthur fan. I'll just leave it at that. And yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Yeah.
Fair enough. For a bonus, if they were football coaches, what positions would they coach?
Okay, George Patton's like that crazy Brent Venables D coordinator that's just blitzing from everywhere. You know what I mean? Like he's on the attack. Omar Bradley is that methodical, smart offensive coordinator that uses like a ton of motions and shifts to gain leverage advantages and numbers advantages. And he's prodding, and then hits the bomb over the top once he's kind of figured out you know what I mean? Like he's that mad scientist kind of guy that he takes his time. And then I'll put MacArthur on special teams and hope that we never need him to do anything other than kick an extra point and kick it in the end zone. How about them apples?
Fair enough.
How about them apples? I like that. That's a good one.
Another one from IN Irish. Buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame loses at least one assistant over the next 2 months, either to the NFL or filling a spot on another team's college football roster who lost an assistant to the NFL.
I'll buy it as a possibility. I don't know of anyone right now that would fit that mold, but I'll buy it as a possibility. I mean, there's still a lot of assistant coach movement that's going to happen, certainly. But I don't know who that would be. I don't have anyone in mind other than just it's a possibility.
From Bayside Tiger 6, buy, sell, hold. Charlie Weiss would have lasted longer in this era of college football with developed transfers, but still underperforms.
Man, I don't know about that last part. Could you imagine like the people that would want to line up to play at Notre Dame in 2007 if the portal and NIL was like it is today? You know what I mean? Like after what he did with Brady and Stovall. I mean, come on, man. I think people would have lined up. He would have been able to recruit some offensive linemen in the portal that were already coached up. I don't know, man. I think they might have kept rolling. Underperform. I mean, we look back and say they underperform, but if the next 3 years of Charlie Weiss are exactly what we saw in 05 and 06, you don't think that would have been, like something to think about? You know what I mean?
He definitely would have lasted longer in this era, but his overall success, in my opinion, would be deemed by who he hired as his defensive coordinator. I have zero questions about what Charlie Weiss's offense would look like in the portal era. It'd be filthy.
You don't think there's a chance that Matt Ryan might not have transferred to Notre Dame in 07?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
you know what I mean?
Man. Offense would be filthy.
That's what I'm saying. And I think they would have been able to recruit some of the defensive areas where they were lacking. So that's just kind of where I'm at. Like, and they would have continued to be like a 10-2 type of team. Is Charlie Weiss a guy that was going to go win a championship? I don't think so. For the reason you just said. But I don't know that I would have considered that at the time underperforming with the way that Notre Dame had been for the previous, 20 years.
Sure.
15 years. I don't know that I call that underperforming. So, yeah, I think he would have done very well in a portal era. Very well. Because, like you said, they'd have been scoring on offense, boy. Your defense is just like, don't screw it up, man. just hold them to 30. That's all we need. Hold them to 30 and we'll be okay.
Literally.
Oh, man. But, yeah, they would have been like having big-time quarterbacks transfer to play for him every year. There's no doubt. That'd have been fun to watch.
And then buy, sell, hold. Brian Kelly would have been worse off in the current era with retention, the biggest problem.
Oh, yeah. In an open portal? Oh, yes. Yeah, Brian Kelly would have lost a lot of players in an open portal system.
100%.
Yeah.
Getting into part 3 of the Irish Breakdown podcast, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. It's buy, sell, hold, and we have Bayside Tiger 6 getting us kicked off here in part 3. Bryce Young's game catches up with his physical changes, and with Partridge has an All-American level season. I definitely buy it as more of a possibility this year than I did going into last year. There are still some things that I'm hoping this is the year that genetics kick in. I think the All-American season is still going to be on the other side of the line in 5, and Boubacar Traore. Would it surprise me if Bryce Young did? No, but I'm not betting all the chips on Bryce Young this year for it. I think that's going to be more Boubacar. But I definitely have more confidence saying it this year than last year. Last year, like 2025, it would have surprised me if he had an All-American level season. It wouldn't surprise me that much this year.
I'm going to buy it. And the reason I'm going to buy it is it's a lot of like what I talked about last year. I mean, we told you guys, like, look, it's going to come in time. It's not going to happen right away. And I think when you look at Bryce and his last, I mean, you could argue that his 3 best games last year were the last game of the year, the 3 last games of the year. I would probably argue his 3 best games were Pitt, Syracuse, and probably Texas A&M with one. He had one really bad run fit against Texas A&M, like really bad run fit. Other than that, he was pretty good. He was pretty disruptive against Boise State. He played well in some of their bigger games. And, I mean, he was trending in a good direction. His last 6 games, he had 6, 9, 12, 14 pressures in his last 16 games. So, I like I said, I just think he's trending in the right direction as a player. And I thought this would be the year where we really see his game take off. And it needs quite a big jump, but I think he's capable of making quite a big jump. I mean, look, his freshman year, he had 208 pass rush snaps and he had 17 pressures, 7 hits plus sacks on a quarterback on 208 pass rush snaps. In 2025, he only had 202 pass rush snaps. He had 29 pressures and 11 hits plus sacks on the quarterback. And I mean, look, Boubacar was a heck of a player this year. There's no doubt about that. But as far as who was more productive on a per snap basis, it's Bryce. I mean, Bryce had 29 pressures, according to Pro Football Focus, on 202 snaps. Boubacar had 31 on 294 snaps. If you give Bryce the same number of snaps and he has the same success rate, he's got 42 pressures. Boubacar had a tremendous success rate, Trev. So, like, Boubacar, what makes Boubacar so good, it's not that he has like 50 pressures. It's that when he does get a pressure, he gets to the quarterback. 16 of his 31 pressures were hits on the quarterback. Well, 11 of Bryce's 29 were hits on the quarterback. It's not the same exact rate as far as per pressure, but as I said, he gets more pressure on a consistent basis. If you look at his number of sacks plus hits on the quarterback, he'd have had the same exact number as Boubacar if you gave him the same number of snaps and he kept that success rate. So I think with Bryce, it's really just a consistency thing, consistency of focus, consistency of effort, where Boubacar was also way better last year. Boubacar was a much better run defender than Bryce last year, much better. And that's where Bryce's game has to go. I would argue, however, that Bryce looked better as a run defender last year than Boubacar looked as a run defender his sophomore year, which is 2024. So I think there's a good chance for him to take a jump. The other thing that I'll say, Trevor, is being the All-American doesn't always mean you're the best D end, because a lot of teams are going to have the same thought on the defensive ends that you just had, Trev, which means you're going to see a lot more focus on trying to stop Boubacar, which then leaves Bryce in a lot more favorable matchups to then have success. It's kind of like the Kobe Bryant versus, Sauce Gardner debate, right? Like Sauce was the better player, but who won the Jim Thorpe Award? It was Kobe Bryant, because people avoided Sauce. That's where another scenario too, where it could be, doesn't mean he's going to be better than Boubacar. I would argue, however, that most likely what happens next year is they both have All-American caliber seasons. I think that's very likely. One of them maybe is first or second team. The other one is second or third team, that kind of thing. So yeah, I think I'll buy that there's a good chance that his game takes off this year. That's my January 20th before we get to spring ball kind of conversation. That may change, but yeah, it's pretty good.
From Floating Irish, buy, sell, hold, which quarterback has the best arm, considering his strength, release, accuracy, etc.? Jimmy Clausen, Brady Quinn, or CJ Carr?
Well, there's 2 ways to look at it. Who was better by the end of their careers compared to who's better based on all the data we know? I mean, I think you got to put CJ third of that, of all we know. CJ has yet to really show me that he's got all the arm talent that Jimmy had in 2009. It's close, but it's not quite there yet. I mean, Jimmy made some ridiculous throws in 2009 on one foot because he was playing injured. Brady made some big-time throws his junior, senior year. If you want to say, okay, well, how about at the same stage of their careers. CJ's number one, and it's not close. I mean, Brady didn't break out to his junior year. Jimmy was flashy as a sophomore. You knew 2009 was going to be pretty good because of just man, if he can just limit some of the turnovers and if they can just give him some time to throw, Jimmy's going to be special because in 2008, you saw the flashes, and not just the Hawaii game either, Trev. You saw it in other games too. But you saw the 2009 breakout coming. I would argue that CJ already kind of had a little bit of that breakout. I mean, you look at what CJ did as a sophomore and compare that to what Jimmy did as a sophomore. So, and y'all know I'm a big Jimmy Clausen fan, right? So let's look at what Jimmy did his sophomore year of college and then what Brady Quinn did his sophomore year of college, which isn't directly a comparison because CJ also played on a better team than either one of those guys. But CJ this year completed 66% of his passes for 2,741 yards, 9.4 per attempt, 24 touchdowns, 6 picks, and set a school record in quarterback rating. In Jimmy's sophomore year, he passed for 3,172 yards in 13 games. He threw 25 touchdowns, averaged 7.2 yards per attempt, but he threw 17 picks at a quarterback rating of 132.5. CJ was better. And then Brady's sophomore year, and again, this is a little bit of a tough comparison because Brady played on a really bad 2004 team, but he threw for 25.86, 54.1% completion, 17 touchdowns, 10 picks, a quarterback rating of 125.9. So as sophomore, CJ, I think his arm strength can match what we saw from those three guys. His release, his accuracy, all those things were as good, if not better, than where those two guys were sophomores. Now we got to find out, can Jimmy make the jump in year 3 that Brady and Jimmy did? That's the question. He was better as a sophomore than the two of them. There's no debate. The question is there room for him to get better like they both did? That's what we're going to discuss here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, CJ Carr is a preseason Heisman now favorite on things like FanDuel. I mean, as a second year as a starter, I love Brady Quinn and I love Jimmy Clausen. They were not preseason Heisman favorites going into their second years fully as a starter. And so when you factor everything in, I think that CJ will eventually surpass both of them when everything is said and done, but he's still young. He was still his first year in the offense last year. So I get that completely. Then this one, by so hold, Lincoln Riley would actually be doing better if he stayed at Oklahoma.
Bye. Yeah, he's totally screwed up. He'd have been better staying at Oklahoma. I mean, all those players would have stayed. Caleb Williams would have stayed. All the receivers would have stayed. All the guys that left would have stayed. And I think they still would have been pretty good. They certainly, even the SEC, even the issues of being in the SEC, I still think they would have been better than what he was the last 2 years at USC. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. He was established at Oklahoma. I mean, because he was the offensive coordinator before he got promoted to head coach for the Sooners. I mean, yeah, that's fair. I guess I didn't think of it that way. Yeah, I'll buy it then. You've persuaded me. I understand.
I think he sucks no matter what. My point is he had a better situation at Oklahoma that he was already living off of what Bob Stoops has built.
No,
that's my point.
No, I get that. It's not a counter to your point. I'm just saying I looked at it big picture of like Lincoln Riley would do worse in the SEC than he would have in the Big Ten, because I understand the Big Ten has the national championship winners, but Lincoln Riley's not playing them. He didn't play
things
Ohio
being
State.
Equal, agree. My point is they weren't equal though. He had to build something on his own at USC that I don't think he can build. I think he would have still lived off of what Bob Stoops had built for him at Oklahoma. Is kind of where I'm coming from.
Yeah, no, we're in agreement. I'm saying before I was looking at it more big picture.
Yeah. He's
From
such an
DCL.
idiot. I seriously, your cowardice put you into a worse situation. That's what's funny about it. That's what the ironic thing about it is.
Mhm.
You walked away from a better situation because you thought it'd be easier, and it's not. And I just think that's absolutely hilarious.
Biso Hold from DCL TJ. You moved the show a day early to catch Salty off guard, and now he's disappointed.
Salty in the chat said this is a buy. So it's actually a day later because we had said we're going to move the Biso Hold from now on to Mondays. But this Monday, we wanted to do a championship game preview and have the conversation about Notre Dame and the championship. So that's why we moved it. But moving forward, the Biso Hold will go out on Saturday, and we'll do the show on Monday. So the question on the board question area thread will be on Saturdays, and then we'll do the show on Monday. Y'all came correct though, because I didn't put this up till last night, and we had 4 pages worth of questions just from putting it up last night. So that was pretty cool. Salty said, "Respect my authority." Well played, Salty. But yeah, he said he's disappointed, but we're good to go. We got it done.
Bang. Then Biso Hold, Signetti winning a title makes him, quote, the best coach in the sport after just 2 years at the helm, according to
I think
The
this
Athletic.
is shallow and without thought, without depth and analysis, which is kind of typical of the Athletics, college football, national writers. It's very reactionary, very emotional, not really built on a lot of depth. But whatever. He's the best coach in 2025. I mean, they won a championship. You're telling me that if a job came open and all the context favored every top coach, you're telling me he's the guy that would be picked? I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah, this is a sell for me. Again, I've said this once, I'll say it again. I want to support what IU did this year because what they did was miraculous.
Mm-hmm.
But it's when we get into this conversation of, is Signetti now the best coach in all of college football? Is this the best team in the history of college football? Is this no, we can just appreciate it for what it was without it being insert the best of something. It was the best of 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to appreciate what they did because it's incredible. But no, he's not the best coach in the sport.
I just wish sometimes we could just enjoy greatness without comparing it to other greatness. Nothing drives me more nuts than that. Who's better? This guy? Well, who cares? They're both great. He had a great year. This Indiana team had a great year. I don't need to compare them to 19 LSU. It's silly. And just enjoy. They were the best team this year, and that's all that matters. Full stop. That's all that matters. Are they better than last year's Ohio State? I have no idea. They didn't play each other. Last year's Indiana is not this year's Indiana, and this year's Ohio State's not last year's Ohio State. I would argue Indiana got smacked by a mediocre version of last year's Ohio State team. They weren't even playing their best football. But again, so what? This Indiana team is a lot better than last year's Indiana team for a host of reasons. So, yeah, let's just enjoy that this was a great story and just leave it at that. I mean, would Mario Cristobal have been the best coach in college football if they would have won last night? If Carson Beck threw a touchdown pass instead of a pick, which is like the least surprising way that game ended.
You and I were texting about that too.
Yeah. It's just like, okay. So, but no, it means his team was the best this year. It doesn't mean he's the best coach in college football.
Another one from DCL, buy, sell, hold. After a couple down years of quarterback production, the 2026 year will be one of the best years of quarterbacks since the infamous 1983 draft class.
I mean, you had me until the last one, right? I think 26 has a chance to be an absolutely fun, awesome year of quarterback play. I mean, just so many good quarterbacks in college football. Like 1983 draft class, I got to pump the brakes on that one a little bit. I mean, are there 5 first-round draft picks? Well, probably, because of the way the NFL draft is now. I mean, what was it like a couple years ago? There was like 5 taking the first 12 picks. I mean, I think 3 of those guys are like already on like their second or third team. Like, no, wait a minute. It wasn't that draft class. What? Because the one I'm thinking of is the one with Zach Wilson. All right, let me see here. What year was that? That was because 2 years ago, actually, that draft class is you've got. I mean, Caleb Williams took his team to the to the playoffs. Jaden Daniels has been pretty good when healthy. Drake May is phenomenal. Bo Nix has been really good. Penix has been banged up. McCarthy's not good, but that's turned out to be pretty good. It's the one from 2021. Trevor Lawrence is still on the team he was on. Zach Wilson's on what, team 3 or 4? Yeah. He was picked second. Trey Lance is on team 3 or 4? He was picked third. Justin Fields is on team 3. He was picked 11th. And then Mac Jones is on team 3 or 4? And he was picked 13th. Because quarterbacks just get overdrafted now. So yeah, I don't know about all that. That was a tremendous draft class, but there will probably be that many. I mean, I could see 6 or 7 first-round picks next year at quarterback, the way that teams overdraft players. I mean, C.J. Carr could be one, Dante Moore. I mean, if Fernando Mendoza can become a number 1 pick, why can't Josh Hoover? Being somewhat hyperbolic, I think Fernando's got a little bit better arm, but I mean, we're talking about, Arch Manning, Lenore Sellers and the hype he gets, Jaden Maeva. I mean, there's a ton of guys that could potentially break into that mold. Darian Mensah. There's a lot of guys could break into that mold. So it's possible. Here's what I know. Take 83 out of it. I think next year is going to be one of the best years of quarterback play in a while from a depth standpoint. Are any of them truly elite? Not yet. There's not an elite quarterback coming back to college football as far as someone who's established as elite. Would you agree with that, Trev?
Yep.
So, but there's a lot of guys with the potential to be elite. Absolutely.
Yeah, the upside of the class is going to be exceptional. I mean, I'm very much looking forward to what quarterback play is going to look like in 2026. But because of some of the uncertainty, it's also not a given that they'll all come out for the 2027 draft class either. There's a world where Julian Sain doesn't go. There's a world where C.J. Carr doesn't go, or DJ Lagway, or Lenore Sellers, or Dante Moore will probably go. But yeah, I mean, I'm very excited to watch what quarterback play will look like this year. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
From Brian's Balloons LLC, buy, sell, hold, dream house, dream car, or dream vacation?
Buy dream house. Mine is a lot of land, a great basement. Like that's I want to have enough land to be able to shoot on my own property. I want to have enough land where I can have, a pretty good sized garden. I'd like to have a property where if I want to mow my lawn, I got to get a rider. You know what I mean? Like, I just would love to have just a house out in the country. Don't know if that dream will ever come to be, but it doesn't have to be a big house. I care more about the land than I do about the size of the house, but a house is always going to be more important for me because it's more permanent. It's like you find your dream house. This is where you're going to be the rest of your life. Kind of house you can pass down to your family and, all that type of stuff. And number 2 would be dream vacation because you can make some wonderful memories that you take with you forever. Dream car, I don't really care about. I'll sell that one. So I'll hold dream vacation, sell dream car. A car to me is just a car. I care about dependability. I care about safety. I care about it getting me from point A to point B. I've never I shouldn't say never. I love good cars. I would love to buy a Ford Mustang. That's my parents bought me one on my 21st birthday, and I had that thing for 20 years. We got rid of it a few years ago, and I love that car. But if I'm kind of talking about spending my own money now, it's do I really want to spend $40,000 on a car again? You know what I mean? Just because it looks good. We spent the money we spent on the one now because it's practical. We needed the room. We're still trying to have kids. It'd be one. We wanted to get one that if that happens, we could do that. Have all that kind of stuff. But I've never really cared about dream car. Although I don't know. Did you guys ever play MASH when you were a kid? So it's this game you'd pick like 3 people you'd like to marry, 3 cars you want to have, 3 this, 3 that, and then you'd do the circle thing. You have to stop, and then you have to count, and then you'd till you eliminate them. And then it's like, you're going to marry so-and-so and you're going to live here and you're going to drive this, you're going to do this. We played on the bus when we were kids. We were bored. We didn't have phones and stuff. We actually had to talk to people and think of games to play. But yeah, dream car has just never been a thing where I value, like, it'd be cool to have a certain car, but it's never been something that I've valued the way that I would a dream house or a dream vacation. It's more practical than a dream vacation, but I'm going to remember the memories my wife and I had on our dream vacation more than we remember. Hey, remember that one time we drove to the store in that really awesome car? Yeah, it was pretty sweet. You know what I mean? Like, okay, great. Yeah, that's mine. What say you, Trev?
It's funny. If you would have asked me this question 4 weeks ago, I would have given you a different answer. But number one now is dream house. For me personally, I would still go dream car. And my dream car isn't like a sports car. Like, I really want a truck. I've wanted a truck ever since the first time I ever went tailgating at Notre Dame. And I did it in my little Chevy Malibu. And I was like, yeah, this just ain't the same if you don't have a truck. So I guess dream truck, I want a GMC AT4X. That is my dream car, but they're like $80,000 trucks, and so that is just not quite in the budget currently. So thus the dream part. And then dream vacation. I love travel, but I more so love the idea of travel. I mean, you're talking to somebody that still hasn't gone on his honeymoon yet, and I got married over a year ago. I mean, we never traveled a lot growing up. Like, our vacations were going down to Cincinnati to see my grandma. And Lauren is a very well-traveled person. I mean, her family loved to travel. She did it all the time growing up. So when she's telling me stories, she's like, yeah, like, we went to France and we went to Rome and like we did an Alaskan cruise and all this other stuff. I was like, wow, that's fantastic. To me, that is the same concept of going to space, because up until I got older, like, they were the same level of like tangibility, you know? And I was like, an Alaskan cruise. I was like, okay.
What are you guys, the Kennedys?
Right. I was like, what are we talking about here? And so
you hang out with Elon Musk on your cruise? Like, what?
Right. And it's like, did you go orbit Jupiter afterwards? Like, what did you do? Like, what are we talking about? So that's
hilarious.
Like, I would love to travel, but that's where I'm at. So
yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So real quick, Pete Weber, MASH was mansion, apartment, shack, house. But the premise was you pick different things. You'd have a house, you'd have this person you want to marry, a car, and all these, and the job you want to have. But you had to pick like the mansion or an equivalent. So mansion, Ferrari, and then apartment, whatever, shack. And it was like, so you may end up like you live in a mansion, but you're driving a Pinto. You know what I mean? Or something like that. That's what made it kind of fun. And it all depended on like the dots. It was pretty funny. But yeah, we played that. Yeah, it was a blast.
Get to marry Pamela Anderson and drive off in your Geo Metro.
Exactly. To our shack. You know what I mean? It's just like, okay, whatever. Sure.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's what it was.
That's great.
All right, next one.
Buy, sell, hold from Brian's Balloons. Notre Dame only wins the title one more time ever, is always in the playoffs, but never wins the title or never makes the playoffs again.
Buy one, where they only win one more ever. Hold that they are always in the playoffs but never win a title, because that's better than never making the playoffs. So yeah, that one's pretty easy. Literally buy, sell, hold, the order you included them.
Mm-hmm. Same page here. And then buy, sell, hold, CJ Carr averages 300 yards passing per game. Notre Dame averages 200 yards rushing per game, or the defense gets 2 interceptions every game.
I will buy the 200 yards passing, or the 200 yards rushing. I mean, there was only 4 teams in all of college football last year, Trev, that averaged 300 yards passing last year. There was only 3 quarterbacks that did that, and only one of them played Power 4 football, and that's Sawyer Robertson from Baylor, who averaged 306.8. So that's not a whole lot, in my opinion. There were 6 the previous year, but I'm gonna pass on that. I would imagine Angeli probably would have been there in 300 something if he doesn't get hurt, but that's, again, a system driven thing. I think CJ will be like around 280 a game, 275 to 285 a game. I think they'll average over 200 yards because you're going to get a lot more Notre Dame running in the fourth quarter next year than you are CJ Carr passing in the fourth quarter next year, in my opinion, is really where I come to. So I'm going to buy the Indy averages 200 yards rushing. I'm going to hold CJ averages 300 yards passing, and I'm going to sell that they get 2 interceptions per game. I think all of them are possible. I think all of them are possible of all happening. I mean, they're not all 3 possibles in that each could eventually individually happen. I mean, it's possible that all 3 of those things are true. They weren't too far off of that from an interception standpoint this year, Trev. I mean, as a defense, if they would have played all year the way that they did the last 7 games, it's not exactly something that's out of the question. They had 21 picks last year in 12 games and had like 1 pick the first 2 games and then 0 against Navy. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games with more than 1 interception. And they had 1, 2, 3, 4 games with 3 or more interceptions. And everybody's coming back. You know what I mean? So yeah, that could certainly happen. And if the first 2 happen, then there's a pretty darn good chance the third one happens because they're going to be winning by a bunch.
Yep. I'll switch up the answer just to not kind of repeat the same tune. I'll go with like stuff that I would like to see. Like I'll buy CJ Carr averages 300 passing yards per game just to, I mean, the offensive and former quarterback in me would love to just watch him air it out week in and week out. I would hold defense gets 2 interceptions every game because I think interceptions are electric, changes momentum. The only reason why I'm selling Notre Dame averaging 200 yards rushing per game is because I've already watched them do that. You know, so it's like maybe I'm a little spoiled in that regard, but I view that more of a constant than I do like like they're going nuts this year. So yeah, that'd be the order that I'd go in. From JG Whitetown, buy 1, hold 1, sell 1. Which station would you have a better product for the college football playoffs? CBS, Fox, or ESPN?
Oh boy. I'm going to buy CBS, hold Fox, sell ESPN. Have you noticed in recent years, ESPN's production of games has taken a huge hit?
Yeah.
It just hasn't been good. Fox is kind of hit or miss for me. There's some things I like about Fox, some things I don't like about Fox. I think they're weird little like ESPN, what was it? Was it ESPN2? Remember when it went all back in the day, like all those weird scripts and things like that? And it just, it's kind of like that kind of vibe. CBS to me, I actually really like their broadcast. Whatever you want to do, maybe they just didn't want to really pay the kind of money to have college football. I totally get, but there weren't many better broadcasts than CBS broadcasting SEC games. I mean, I thought the broadcast quality was good. I think that the broadcast teams were solid. I mean, Vern Lundquist was a legend. I don't dislike Gary Danielson as much as some other people. He, like anybody, drives me nuts at times. But like, I like enjoying. I think Aaron Taylor does a pretty good job on some of those American Conference CBS games. But there's nothing better, in my opinion, Trev. The thing that tops it all off is the intro.
Yep.
That's the theme music for college football.
Yep.
It just is. It just is. I've said before, if Notre Dame were to leave NBC, I would absolutely want them to go to CBS.
Well, I'd love that.
Like, just would be my dream.
Yep.
I just think CBS does a better job broadcasting sports than anybody. They do a better job with college basketball than ESPN. Of all the NFL networks, I still think they do the best job. I think they do a great job. I mean, the only time I've ever watched I've seen some golfing events, even like what they do with golfing is kind of for events is really quality stuff. I just think CBS does the best job of broadcasting sports. So I'm going to go with CBS.
I was just about to say, I agree with everything you said, but I'll buy CBS just off of the theme song alone. That is electric. And I respect them for always keep it like it's never changed. You know, they've never tried to come out with like a new updated
cool hip hop version or a
like a
modern version.
Dubstep remix version.
Don't mess with perfection.
It's great.
Don't mess with perfection. Don't do it.
From JG Whitetown, Notre Dame will have an incoming freshman that will start on offense and defense by week 5. Buy one, hold one, sell one for a position on each side of the ball. So on offense, tight end, running back, or receiver.
I'll buy tight end. I'll hold receiver, sell running back. Is that the right way to do it?
Yep. Yes, sir.
I think all three have a shot, and I like that he picked those three because those are the three most likely. But if I had to guess now, who's going to have a better shot of starting by week 5? Caden Finley or one of the two running backs? I'd probably lean towards Caden Finley, but I'm not by a ton. Not by a ton.
Yeah, I'd go the same order. Yeah. And then defense, DN, corner, or safety.
I'd actually buy DN, hold safety, sell corner, just because there's more guys that you'd have to pass at safety corner than safety to start. You're a great camp and one injury away from starting at safety.
Yeah.
At corner, you're a great camp and probably 2 injuries away from playing a corner. So that's where. Plus, I don't know that any of the corners. I don't know that I view Kari Adams, Aiden Pouncey, or Chaz Smith as nickels, where they could maybe come in and help as freshmen. I think they're more outside corners.
I would buy safety, hold DN, sell corner. I think the only way that a true freshman defensive end starts is if there's multiple injuries.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe.
But
I think that's possible. I mean, I think that I think that's actually a quicker path. But all of them are going to require injuries. Can we agree on that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's not that those – and the thing is, Trev, this freshman class has as most ready-to-play right now players as any class we've seen in 20 years. But it's just that's how loaded the roster is.
Mm-hmm. From Fat Fish, buy, sell, hold, the most annoying fan base, Indiana, Miami, Alabama.
I'm going to buy Miami, hold Alabama, sell Indiana because I just don't have a lot of interaction with Indiana fans. But from what I've been told by other people, it might be the way that he has it written. I can only go off my experiences, and I just haven't experienced a lot of Indiana fans. So I don't really have an opinion on them.
Yeah, I mean, going back to what Brian was talking about, I will buy Indiana, and then the other two I'll just leave up for debate. But that's just me personally. I grew up in Indiana. I now live an hour away from Bloomington. Like, it's family members that have gone to sister schools of Indiana that if you would have talked to them, you would have thought that they grew up in Bloomington. And
I've been a diehard Hoosier fan for 30 years. Oh, yeah, name me one player that played in the last 20 years not named Antoine Randall L. Name me one. Before Kurt Cignetti got here. Exactly.
Yep. I had a guy tell me, he's like, I've been a diehard fan for 30 years. And I was like, when was the first game you went to? He was like, this year. And I was like, all right.
Bro, you live in 30 minutes from campus.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, and why was this the first year that you went? You're telling me you weren't going to games in 2021?
Now let's take local and family out of the picture, and let's just go interaction with alums and online. Based on kind of a conversation you and I had beforehand, Miami might be a little higher on your list. Like, remember the conversation we had before?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's based on like just alum and social media. I would still say Indiana, but not by a wide margin.
Yeah.
Not as wide if we're factoring in people in, I guess in real life.
Yeah. Because that's it for you, is you actually know people like that. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't literally know a person that's an Indiana fan.
Yeah. So, yeah, but Miami would be definitely closer if we factor in just like alum and online.
Dirty Mike and the boys in Jesse's Kia, which, by the way, is freaking hilarious. Little reference from the other guys. But he says, Trevor won't eat a bloomin' onion. He hates IU so bad. Nah, bro, that's Vince. That is Vince.
Yeah, I don't, like I've said before, I don't have disdain for the school. It's the supporters of that school. Like, I've been to Bloomington. Yeah. Like,
Vince takes the scenic route around Bloomington when he's heading in that direction. Adds an hour and a half onto his trip just to not have to go through Bloomington.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. That's definitely Vince.
Another one from Fat Fish. Military strategies applied to Notre Dame's 2026 philosophy. Operation Neptune, which is D-Day. Lightning War, which is Blitzkrieg. Or Leapfrogging the Pacific, the island hopping campaign.
Oh, boy. I'm going to go with Operation. I'm going to go with D-Day. I'm going to go Operation Neptune. And here's why I say that. My gut reaction was Blitzkrieg because it's just come out and just storm everybody. But those guys lost for good reason.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't really work out super well. The other one, leapfrogging, I don't know how that really, I can't think of how to apply that to football. You know, the Pacific Island hopping campaign, you know, Okinawa, Iwo Jima, I can't figure out how to apply that to sports. D-Day I apply because look, there's so much planning and preparation that goes into the actual carrying it out. Once it was carried out, it was hard fought. You had to battle, but in the end, it was the thing that turned the tide, and the world was never the same after that. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of, you know, the college football world. I don't know is going to be the same after Notre Dame wins a championship. Ours certainly won't. So that's the best way I could kind of go with that one. So I'm going to go with D-Day by hold on Pacific Island hopping and sell Blitzkrieg because I can't ever buy anything done by those people. I don't know if we would get like dinged for saying that word, but those losers.
Yeah.
And again, they also lost. So
that's very true.
I try to make it a habit of not supporting losers, especially crazy genocidal losers.
That's very fair. Very fair.
Call me crazy.
Well, if you bought Blitzkrieg, I'd have to call you something besides crazy. But I agree. I agree with you completely. I would buy D-Day because I view it as, you know, gathering of the forces. It was a well thought out plan. And it's kind of, you know, up until that point, not necessarily backs against the wall. I would actually sell the island hopping campaign because of the spirit of what it was. In my mind, if I relate that to a football strategy, it'd be like Notre Dame would just kind of pick and choose the games that they would put a lot of emphasis in.
Yeah.
Like, so, yeah.
I guess as I think about it, you could say, okay, you got to take this one to take that one. You got to take that one to take that one. I guess you could kind of go that route. I guess that could kind of make a little bit of sense. Yeah, one at a time to get to the big one, which is the main island.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yep.
From Fat Fish. Posit that Notre Dame was accepted into the Big Ten in 1926. How would their history have changed? I guess we'll take these one at a time, or is this buy one, sell one, hold one?
Yeah, it was kind of one at a time, and then there's another one here. So
okay,
it was buy one, sell one, hold one.
Okay. Buy one, sell one, hold one. Diluted their historical unique identity conflicting with the university's values. More proximate-based rivalries with less national notoriety, intercontinental rivalry non-existent. Or increased commercialization such that the university would be unrecognizable today.
I'm going to hold that one because I think that people from 50 years ago would kind of say that's already true of Notre Dame and going to Notre Dame games. So I kind of think the first two are kind of the same thing to me. Diluting your historical unique identity conflicting with the university's values is to me not a whole lot different than, you know, more proximate based rivalries with less national notoriety. I think those two things go hand in hand.
Yeah.
You know, they're kind of the same thing. If I had to pick one of the two, I'd probably go with the second one, more proximate based rivalries with less national notoriety. The USC thing would have never happened. It happened because you got rejected by the Big Ten at the time, the Western Conference. So I think that one's probably the one I would buy. I would probably hold the diluted their historical unique identity conflicting with the university values. I don't think being in the Big Ten would have forced them to lose their values as an institution any more than being independent has caused them to lose certain aspects of their identity as university. Yeah. Which we could have a very long non-sports related show on that. But I'd rather not. So yeah, I'll buy the second one. Raymond Harton said, it's transcontinental, by the way, Fish.
It is.
It's never going to die. I love it.
Fat Fish, buy, sell, hold. Led Zeppelin one, the Beatles, the White Album, or the Rolling Stones, Some Girls?
So I'm gonna buy the Beatles, the White Album. I think Beatles and my personal taste, I like way more than Led Zeppelin or Rolling Stones. I'm gonna hold Led Zeppelin because that's not really my music style, but you can appreciate their greatness, in my opinion. I don't know if you agree with that, Trev, but I think you can listen to a Led Zeppelin song and say, this isn't really my cup of tea, music style wise. These cats are talented. I mean, they're playing instrument. I've always thought the Rolling Stones were incredibly overrated, mainly because their lead singer. I think Mick Jagger's very average. I think some of the, who was the other guy? Was it Keith Richards? Is that his guitarist? Like, obviously, or right? He's talented, but Mick Jagger's terrible. He's awful. And you ever like actually listen to some of the lyrics of a Rolling Stone song? They're just the dumbest. So most overrated band ever, in my opinion, Rolling Stones. So I'd go buy Beatles, hold Led Zeppelin, and sell Rolling Stones. Like, I could sit and listen to a Led Zeppelin album if somebody had it on. I wouldn't choose it, but I can listen to it because I can appreciate their talent. If somebody's playing Rolling Stones, I'd be like, grab my AirPods. I'm like, okay, let me put these in. You know what I mean? Like, pass.
I'd probably buy, hold, sell in this order. Buy Led Zeppelin, hold the Beatles, sell the Rolling Stones. Yeah.
Trev, my dad has always spoken fondly of you. That's probably going to end now because that's his favorite band of all time is the Beatles. So
the Beatles.
It's been a good run with you and my dad on the good side. It's been a good run.
Well, all good things come to an end, I guess.
Let's get to the next one.
From Fat Fish, buy, sell, hold, quarterbacks that didn't pan out that you were confident coming in. Gunnar Kiel, Brandon Wimbush, Phil Jurkovec.
I was most confident in Phil Jurkovec. I'll buy him. Second guy I was most confident in was Brandon Wimbush. Hold him. I was never a huge fan of Gunnar Kiel, so I'll sell him. That's where I'm at.
Mine's a little different because I wasn't really following recruiting at this time. I'll just add this little story in here. I thought Gunnar Kiel was insane. He was the first person that I saw in person that I was like, yeah, there's levels to how good of an athlete you are. I've always been a very confident, borderline cocky person with anything that I've done. And we were at a 7-on-7 tournament at Notre Dame, and Gunnar Kiel was there, and he broke one of my buddy's fingers because he broke up a pass. And I was like, yeah, okay, it's different once you get to a certain level. Not saying that I thought he was going to be better than Brandon Wimbush or Phil Jurkovec, because I was very high on Phil Jurkovec as well. But seeing that in person was my first time saying, like, oh, okay. Like, there's differences between D1, D2, D3, NAIA athletes, so on and so forth down the list. That was wild. From Heyo Teo, buy, sell, hold. A year and a half from now, we'll look back and think to ourselves, quote, Pete Bavacqua did an amazing job leveraging Notre Dame's influence to better position us for long-term success.
I'm going to hope by that, but I'm going to, at best case, I'm in a good mood, so I'm just going to hold it. I need to see it to believe it. So I'll just hold it.
With that, then buy, sell, hold, there is ultimately going to be a Marcus Freeman statue outside of Notre Dame Stadium due to the on-field success and legacy he brought to Notre Dame.
Buy. I mean, I literally kicked this show off by saying Notre Dame's winning the championship next year. So, yes. Yep, buy.
Buy, sell, hold from Ryan Michael. A running back other than Aeneas Williams will lead the team in rushing yards, but Williams will lead the running back room in total yards.
Yeah, I said that last week, that if Kedron Young is healthy in spring practice, that I think ultimately he emerges as the number one back, as the lead runner, but that Aeneas would have more total touches. And with more total touches comes most likely more yards. Yeah.
Agreed. And then buy, sell, hold, the best wide receivers in 2026 will be one that was not a portal addition.
Oh, buy. Yeah. I mean, I kind of predict that to be the case. Certainly. Yeah, I'll buy that one too.
Same. This year will determine if Ash was either the right choice or a mistake by Freeman.
Buy. Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely buy.
Rudolph will put the best 5-0 line in the best positions for success this year. We can only hope.
Sell. I mean, he's got to show me he can do it. With Pete Bavacqua, it's like, look, he's still new. We haven't seen him in a situation like this before. Let's give him a chance. Joe Rudolph's going into what, year 4, and he's kind of over on that so far. So I have no hope that he's going to do that now. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm selling that as hard as I've sold just about anything today.
Yep.
I would love to be proven wrong. Would love it.
As would I. By so hold, Notre Dame will have 5+ first-round picks in the next 2 NFL drafts from the current roster. So I'm assuming we can't count the 26 draft because, like, Jeremiah Love's not on the current roster. Is that how you're reading that?
Yeah, that's kind of how I take it. Yeah, I think
Okay.
27 and 28 drafts is more of how I take that. So,
Cool.
and I buy that.
I do as well.
Yeah. The next 2 drafts, I mean, CJ Carr,
Leonard
Moore, Tay Johnson, Boubacar Traore, Bryce Young, Gerby Lambert, if Jagasol can come back and be healthy for a couple years. I mean, there's Anthony Knapp, potentially could be that guy. Yeah. It's first round pick. And I mean, I think Don Schuler, if he tests well at the combine, could be a day 2 pick.
Yeah.
I don't know that Adon has the measurables to jump in round 1 at that position, because safety is such a position that you got to be kind of a freaky athlete to really be picked that early. But he'll be a day 2 pick that'll end up being a lot like Xavier Watts. You know what I mean? Like goes in round 3, but starts as a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. Drake Bowen is not Drake Bowen or Kingston maybe, but I don't know. Like, again, linebacker's position, you just don't see a lot of guys going round 1 unless they can rush the quarterback. So, but yeah, I could see that happening for sure. Yep.
Another one from Ryan Michael. By so hold, a quarterback not on the 2026 fall roster will start after CJ Carr leaves and becomes a top 5 pick. I personally think it will be Hebert or Gerard, but can't count out Grubbs.
Now, he also said, but I just didn't have enough room to fit it onto the card. He said it could be a high school kid or a portal guy. So, like, they signed someone from the 27 class or it's a portal guy. I'm still going to sell it either way. I think one of those 3 kids will start in 2027. I think the whole reason to bring in Teddy Gerard was to let those 3 battle to get that job. So that's who I think it'll be.
Yep. I'm with you. You don't get Teddy Gerard to reclassify if you're just going to go and get a guy in the portal to then start. I'm with you. The talent's in the room. Their future starters also going to be in the room this year. By so hold, Francis Brew will be the most impactful non-kicker transfer in 2026. Even if Onye returns, a defensive transfer will be number 2 as well.
Boy, that's a good one. I buy that, but not as strongly as people might think. I think DJ McKinney has a chance to be a very impactful player at Notre Dame. Actually, you know what, Trev? I'm actually going to do something where I'm going to kind of break down the transfers. And what I'll do is I'll just break it down and put it on the free content. But when I do it for the board, I'll actually rank their impact for portal. That's a good article idea.
Love it.
Writing that down now, and then I'll rank it on the board. So do that. Okay. All right. So we'll do that. And then but I could see one of the receivers breaking out, although they got to show me something. I could see, like I said, DJ McKinney. I could see Keon kind of having a big year also. But the guy that's the most known commodity that they got in the portal that I also think is a talented player is Francis Brew. And it's at a position of need. So, like, all the things, is the talent there? Check. Is the need there? Check. Is the system created to allow him to make an immediate impact? Check. Does he have proven production? Check. I mean, it's all there for Francis Brew. But I think DJ McKinney's the guy that a lot of Notre Dame fans are sleeping on. And then, of course, the 2 receivers could end up making an immediate impact. I'm not trying to say they're going to be this, but, like, think about Jamison Williams. He goes to Alabama having not played hardly at all at Ohio State the first 2 years. And he's a monster in his 1 season at Alabama. It's happened before, and why did he not play at Alabama? Wasn't that he wasn't good, or Ohio State? It wasn't that he wasn't good. He was buried on a loaded depth chart. I mean, he was sitting behind dudes at Ohio State, and that's why. So it's possible that they could do that, but that's a big jump. Whereas with Francis Brew, it's like literally What does he got to do to make this be the case? Do what you did last year at Notre Dame. You know what I mean? This year. And that's going to be the case. So, yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm as things stand today, I'll buy this. I mean, he has the most experience coming in of any of the starters, arguably next to DJ McKinney, but he played 484 snaps. He wasn't hurt. DJ McKinney got hurt last year. Didn't play the final 3 games, but my answer, I wouldn't be surprised if my answer changed once we got to see some stuff in spring and in fall camp. Because one of those receivers, look, I was as high as anybody, maybe not as high as Brian, but I was very high on what Jared Dawson did this year for Notre Dame along the interior of the defensive line. He still wasn't the most impactful transfer. You know, it was Malachi Fields and what he did in the boundary. So now I'm not saying Quincy Porter or Mylan Graham are going to be what Malachi Fields were, but if this offense is going to be what we think that it is, those receivers are going to play a part in it. So
I just like the fact that, Trevor, you're going outside of your you got to show me mode a little bit here. I dig that.
Thank you.
I dig that. Yeah, that's like, did you cringe at all when you said that, or did it feel natural and good coming out that you made a projection like that? It feel pretty good?
Yeah, chill went up my spine at the start, but once I settled in, it felt pretty good.
Hey, this is all right. I can do this.
It's like it's kind of one of those. I was like, okay, sky's not falling. We're good. Maybe we're onto something here.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Buy, sell, hold from JP is for Notre Dame. 2026 Notre Dame football schedule is more difficult than we first thought. Well, first thing, I get where you're coming from with this submission, but I don't know who we is. We Brian and I talked about how look,
yeah. Go ahead.
This it wasn't a gauntlet by any means. It wasn't Georgia 2024, but what we told a lot of fans and a lot of people in the IB community was, look, does it have the name prowess of what former schedules have had with Texas A&M and Ohio State and USC? No, but we also said that Notre Dame is getting a strength of schedule bump by replacing USC with BYU. So I definitely get where you're coming from. I'm kind of just giving you a hard time here, JP. But I mean, I guess I'm going to sell this because for this is exactly what we thought the schedule would be. We talked about how Miami's probably going to be ranked. Replacing it with BYU is definitely a strength of schedule bump compared to USC, and they were probably going to be ranked. And we talked about SMU potentially being a ranked team as well that Notre Dame was going to face. So I'm going to sell it because the preseason rank or the way too early rankings that came out, it really just kind of confirmed what we had been saying, not necessarily taught us anything new. That's where I'm at.
I think the schedule is kind of what I've said. I'm going to take his question by we, meaning more like the general consensus, which is that it's soft. I think there's 2 things that are true about Notre Dame's schedule. Number one is it's not as soft as people make it out to be because it's top heavy. That's the second thing. It is a top heavy schedule. I don't know that there's a lot of good after that. Now, you could say Navy, if they can keep doing what they're doing. That's a pretty good team. After that, Trev, there's not a lot of teams that are like that were good last year on the schedule. What does that mean? I don't know what that means because at the end of the day, Trev, we don't know how teams are going to be from year to year. I mean, when you looked at Notre Dame's 2024 schedule, what's the game we talked about all offseason is like, dude, that is going to be the game that defines how good this team is. It wasn't
Florida State.
It was at Texas A&M and home against Florida State. Those were the 2 big games going to tell you how good you were. And Florida State was terrible. You know, and then going into 2024, who had Army and Navy as like 2 of the best games on your resume? No, they were both had a losing record the year before, I believe. And Navy certainly did. I think Army might have been 6-6. But if you go look at it, you've got Wisconsin had a losing record. Rice was not very good last year. Michigan State had a losing record. Purdue had a losing record. North Carolina had a losing record. Boston College had a losing record. Syracuse had a losing record. Stanford had a losing record. And then you have the 4 teams at the top. So it's like really good at the top, like no average teams, and then a bunch of crap. The problem that I have is that people are only focusing on the crap underneath. And assuming that nobody gets better, which is, I think, faulty. And then B, we're going to just pretend that you guys haven't been hyping up SEC teams that play 3 tough games and then nothing else after that and pretend that you guys haven't done the same thing. That's my issue. So, yeah. So, yeah, I think it is more difficult than the consensus, but I'm not going to sit here and try to gaslight you guys or lie to you guys and try to act like this is a vintage, 1989 caliber schedule where Notre Dame's going to have to beat 7 ranked teams in order to get to the championship game. I'm not going to tell you that either.
Right.
If Notre Dame has to beat 7 ranked teams to win a championship, it'll be because like 4 of them are in the postseason. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't 24. But that doesn't make it a weak schedule either. It's the typical BS that we deal with, Trevor. There's 2 extremes and nobody's want to have a conversation in the middle. That's the reality.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a gauntlet? No. Is it a soft schedule? No. It's a good schedule. It's not a great schedule. It's not in the top 20 toughest schedules of college football, but it's not going to be, 50th, 60th, 70th either, in my opinion.
Yeah, the way that I look at Notre Dame's 2026 schedule is like this should be the bare minimum of what your schedule should be every single year. Like you're not playing. I don't want to see a repeat of the 24 schedule where you play 4 non-P4 teams. Don't want to see that again. I don't. But this is the foundation, like I guess the bare minimum of what I want to see from Notre Dame year in and year out with a couple years, and they do have that as of right now down the road where you got Florida State on the road and Bama on the road and Texas at home and Clemson at home all in the same year. Right. That's also the max of what I also ever want to see it. I don't want them to play a 1989 Notre Dame schedule. That'd be terrible. And then go do a 12-team playoff? No, that'd be too much. From AST 12321, buy, sell, hold. There is above a third chance that Knapp is moved inside.
I'll buy that. I think you could argue it's above a 33% chance, but below 50%. I think that's fair. I think they'll at least have a conversation about it. I don't want to pretend like Joe Rudolph's is, Mike Denbrock's going to sit down like, hey, what about that? And he's going to go, la, 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 la. I don't think he's going to do that. I think he'll at least listen. I just think at the end of the day, they're just not going to move the known to put it in unknown, even though the unknown has a significantly higher ceiling at that position.
And you could also argue that because of the significantly higher ceiling, how much of an unknown is it? I get what you're saying. Right. Like it's an unknown because you never moved them, but like sometimes it's like when it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck, right? I mean, that's how I look at that situation.
Yep.
And buy, sell, hold. Jaden Greathouse will recapture his semifinal natty magic.
Buy.
Love that.
Yeah. Short and sweet, baby. Yeah. Is he going to average 120 yards a game? No, but what I mean is he's going to be a playmaker this season.
Yep.
Yes.
Same level of impact. It'll just look different on the stat sheet.
Yep.
Agreed. Then Leonard Moore will shadow Malachi Toney in November like he shadowed Mekhi Lemon.
So I think their alignment's going to look a lot different. It's possible, but I'll sell it. I'm
going to sell it as well. Yeah.
Yep. So they're like, okay, what's the next one? Oh, wait, I've got to do that.
Come on, Trev.
Yeah.
Hello. Buy, sell, hold.
Oops.
Mendoza's touchdown to ice the game was the most iconic play of the postseason playoff era.
Oh, boy. Talking about the scramble? I mean, yeah, because it was done in a championship game. No. It's the second most. Tua's walk-off to Devontae Smith in 2017 is still the most iconic championship game play. With all due respect to the phenomenal 4th down run that Francisco had last night, throwing a walk-off bomb for a touchdown in overtime takes the cake. That's my opinion. I could, that's just me, but that's – and I think Hunter Renfro's touchdown catch from Deshaun Watson in 16 was pretty money as well. Those 3 to me are the big ones. Those are the big ones.
It's up there, but it doesn't take the cake for me either. Those 2 are up there for sure.
Yeah. I mean, how do you beat literally a throw that wins the game? Right. Meaning like not won it because you had to make a stop. It's like literally ball game.
Yeah, like it iced the game. more
Yes.
so than it did like win you the game.
Yeah. But I mean,
Agreed.
even icing the game, they had to pick. Look, Miami was in Indiana territory with a chance to take the lead with less than a minute to go.
Mhm.
I don't even know that it iced the game. That's not his fault. I mean, defense, love Bryant Haynes, but bro, keep doing what you've been doing. Why are we changing what you're? I'll never understand that, Trev. I'll never, ever, ever understand that. But yeah,
prevents
it
wins.
was a great play. But I mean, the Sean's throw to Hunter Renfro was more of that was a game. It didn't ice the game. That was a game winner. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that was. So it was a great play. But just off the top of my head, I got to go with the walk-off from Tua to Devontae Smith and the pass from Deshaun to Hunter Renfro. Just off the top of my head.
I mean,
2015, the fake or the onside kick, the trick play to OJ Howard. I mean, there's some big ones, man. There's been some big ones.
I mean, shoot, the Jeremiah Love's 2-yard touchdown run against Penn State was insane.
Yeah.
Like I know that wasn't the Natty, so I get that the argument there. One was in the Natty, one wasn't, but that might have been the greatest 2-yard run I've ever seen.
Well, what player are we going to see more going into the NFL draft? The dive by Mendoza for the touchdown, or Jeremiah Love going for 98 against Indiana for the first touchdown of the 12-team era? You know what I mean? Like, there's been a lot of them. That was a great play.
Absolutely.
I just can't put it at number one.
100%.
Which one would you pick at number one? I'm torn between the Hunter Renfro touchdown pass and the walk-off. I probably would go with the walk-off from Tua to Devontae as it. But that pass from Deshaun Watson to Hunter Renfro, I kind of felt like you slayed that evil dragon that was Alabama.
Yeah.
A little bit, for Clemson.
Yeah, that it's like 1A, 1B for me. Honestly, Clemson's probably lucky that they didn't have the FSU 2014 officiating crew call that play, because it was quite literally the same exact play, I say jokingly. But I would go those two, 1A, 1B. A sleeper one was, I think it was Kenyon. No. Or maybe it was Kenyon Drake. I'm not sure. Somebody had a kick return in that Alabama-Clemson 2015 game. Like, it was like Clemson needed to stop. Yeah, like Clemson needed to stop. They were coming out like Alabama just scored, and they needed to I think it was like a score to tie it. And then I think it was Kenyon Drake who housed a kickoff return and just kind of ended it. That was also electric.
I think you're correct. I think it was Kenyon Drake. I'm trying to find it here real quick. But apparently there was that game was 45-40, correct? Was the final score of that game?
I think so.
Let me see here. Yeah, Kenyon Drake. So 14-21. You had the OJ Howard 51 3-yard pass. And Clemson took a lead. OJ Howard with another long pass. Alabama goes up. Clemson had kicked a field goal to bring it within 4. And then Drake went 95 to ice it. But even then, I mean, Clemson didn't back down, man. They came right back down the field. But now it was you're scoring to get in within double digits, and then Bama went down and made it 12. And yeah.
That's a sleeper one, I remember. But those would probably be my 1A, 1B.
Yeah. What was the final score of what was the final score of the next year? Do you remember what the final score of that game was?
Was it 34-31?
I think you're right. 35-31. And that was, let's see, when did Hunter score his? He caught a touchdown pass with a second left.
Good Lord.
Because Jalen Hurts had just ran for 30 yards to give Bama a 31-28 lead. And they went right down the field. Deshaun threw a 2-yard touchdown pass with a second left in the game.
Yeah, and like one or two of the plays before that were just 50-50 jump balls to Mike Williams that he won to get them down in the red zone.
Yeah, that was great.
I watched that game in my dorm by myself because it was Christmas break and I stayed because I had to work.
Nice.
Yeah, that was electric. Buy, sell, hold from AST 12321. Notre Dame will fix its inability to run on 3rd and 4th and short.
I'll buy that. Yeah, I'll buy that. I think that number one, I think the offensive line has a chance to be more successful. A lot of the things I'm going to talk about with the offensive line are working with the assumption that Jagasaw is going to be healthy. If for some reason he's not healthy, then that changes things a little bit. But I'll buy that. I'll buy that, Trevor, as a because I think there's several reasons why. Number one is I think you're going to have a little bigger offensive line next year. If Jagasaw comes back, there's a potential world in which you see Jagasaw, Lambert. We're just assuming that like Craig is going to come back in the starting lineup or Will Black's going to be in the starting lineup. I'm not assuming that. I think that's probably your most upside, but I'm not assuming that we won't see Jagasaw and Sullivan Absher at guard with Gerby Lambert at tackle.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And now you got 320 plus pounders in your starting lineup. So I think the presence of Aeneas Williams and Kedron Young, as great as Jeremiah and Jadarian Price were, I don't know that they were necessarily like vertical runners in short yardage situations. Especially Jadarian, he wants to kind of make that jump cut and make that big play. I think Aeneas has very much a good downhill get a yard style, but you know who else does? 242-pound Kedron Young.
Yeah.
And I also think that you're going to have a much more of a threat of throwing the ball on 3rd and 4th down next year, which teams are going to have to respect, which then opens up maybe an extra, one less hat in the box in the run game. So I think all those things will factor into it. Plus, I think they'll spend the offseason focusing on it. And I think this staff has been pretty good about when they really focus on something that they weren't good at the year before, they've tended to show good improvement there.
Yeah, and then kind of the final piece of this for me too is they showed the willingness to run CJ from time to time, and he'll be a year older, he'll be a year stronger, a year a little bit bigger. Now, don't run him on 3rd and short and 4th and short like you did Riley Leonard, but that could also be another option. I don't think it'll just be the limited options that it was this year. So I'm buying that as well. Buy sell hold from Scav. The Notre Dame defense will be elite, and Chris Ash will start to be viewed as a good hire.
I'm going to hope by this one. As long as he does what he did the last 7 games of the year, this not even as a hope buy. This is an absolute buy. The only pause I have is that I just worry that he's going to try to revert back to what he wanted to do early on in the year last year, and just say, well, now we've got more time.
If I'm with that completely, I'm buying this because all he has to do, to your point, is just be who he was from Boise State on. If he does that, then we're good.
Yes. It won't be viewed as a good hire. If he does that next year, it'll be considered a great hire. So I'd even go beyond it being a good hire. I think if he runs that defense in the last 7 games, it's a great hire.
Yep.
Because they'll have an elite defense next year.
Absolutely. Getting into the final part of the Irish Breakdown podcast, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. We got the buy-sell hold going on today. And getting us started is Akshat Shakar with a buy-sell hold. Blake Hebert as tush-push specialist on 3rd, 4th, and 1 next year.
Look, I love the idea of putting a 225-pound mobile running quarterback in there for that scenario. What I don't love is bringing a guy off the bench cold and taking a snap from under center.
Yeah.
Like, part of the reason I loved going from shotgun was I could read a defense better. The other reason why, you have a much better chance of salvaging a bad snap. If you're under center if the center makes a mistake, it's on the ground. It's going on the ground. And so, I have flashbacks to 2011 when they put Dane in the game and they're about to score to tie the ball game up against USC, and Dane, the ball goes through his legs. He gets blamed for it, but like the ball went right through his legs. It's a terrible snap. Dane Chris hadn't taken a snap from under center a month, 2 months. You know what I mean? And you put him in the game, and it's like, okay, now he's got to take a snap from center from a guy he hasn't really done that much with in recent weeks, and you saw what happened. So, yeah, I get where you're coming from, but bro, you don't got to get cute with it. Hand the ball off to Kedron, hand the ball off to Aeneas, hand the ball off to Nolan James. get behind your big boys or have CJ throw the football to one of your dudes. You don't need all that.
Yep, agreed. It's the way that the offensive line should perform this year. I don't need any of the gimmicks. I don't need the wildcat. I don't need the this. I don't need a package for this guy. Definitely understand where you're coming from here, but if the interior of the offensive line is as dominant as they should be able to pick these up with ease next season.
Mm-hmm. Yep, agree.
From Noah Weiss, buy, sell, hold. Texas will win the SEC.
It's way too early for me to feel great about that, but just off the top of my head, I buy that as a possibility. I'm a little worried about their defense, but I'm also a little bit worried about what Texas or Georgia has on defense next year too. So I'll go with that for now. If they can, as long as they don't have to play Georgia in the championship game, they'll be fine. I'll buy that.
Yeah, sell. This is a sell for me. Like, Texas will have the talent, but until somebody proves that they can beat Georgia and dethrone them in the SEC, that's just kind of who I'm going with. It's kind of the champs until somebody beats you mindset and taking that to the conference level. So, and Texas also has to prove to me that they can win a big game under Sark. So right now you're kind of still hanging your hat on the 2023 Alabama road game, like in my eyes.
Yeah. Hey, hold on now. You're forgetting that Big 12 championship game over 4-loss Oklahoma State, baby. That was a big game.
That's fair. That's facts.
Psych. Yeah.
Oh, man. Buy, sell, hold. Louisville will win the ACC.
Ooh, this is a good one. Let me look at Louisville's schedule because I do like some of the stuff they've done in the portal right now. I'm a little nervous about that because they are going to most likely have a quarterback who has not started a game before. Because Miller Moss is gone, correct?
Yes, sir.
And they went out and got Lincoln Kienholz from Ohio State, who's a talented kid. I think he fits that system pretty well. And they've got, they got some guys that they recruited coming back next year. So there'll be a battle there. But if I felt better, I'm going to sell this because I'm the uncertainty at quarterback. If I felt better about who they had at quarterback, I would say I kind of like that because I think Louisville's got a lot of talent coming back next year, and they did well in the portal. And I know they lost Colin Lacey and Chris Bell. I get all that, but and I think their schedule is in conference is favorable. They got to play at Georgia Tech. They got to play at NC State. The rest of their schedule is this, Trev. Home against Florida State, home against Pitt, home against SMU, home against Stanford, home against Wake, at NC State, at North Carolina, at Syracuse, at Georgia Tech. That's no Miami, no Clemson. They get SMU at home. You get Florida State at home. So it's a very doable schedule if they can figure out the quarterback.
Schedule definitely sets up favorably. I'm going to sell this, and I don't do that with a lot of confidence, but I'll say this about Louisville. Jeff Brom has to avoid just the what the heck was that loss.
Yes.
Because I'll say this, Louisville every single year is due for just a how the heck did you win that football game type of games. Yep. And for Jeff Brom, and I love him as an offensive mind, but that worked at Purdue.
Yep.
Whereas you could be middle of the pack. You'll go anywhere from being like 8-9 wins all the way down to like a 5-win team, but they'll beat Ohio State, or they'll beat Michigan State when they're a really good team. It's like, and then the next week they'll lose to Northwestern. And so far, that's what he's done at Louisville.
Or you go on the road and beat Pitt and then lose at home the next week to Virginia. Or you bounce back from that with a road win over Miami, road win over Virginia Tech, which sandwiched a home win over Boston College, and then you lose at home to Cal.
Yep.
That's absolutely correct.
Yep, that's
absolutely correct.
On top of the quarterback piece, that's my holdup with Louisville. If Jeff Brom can fix that going into next season, I like this. That's why I don't sell it with a lot of conviction, but until.
Right.
I guess I've reverted back to show me mode.
It's good to be when it best suits the argument, it's great to apply. You just don't have to have it be your always the time rule.
Very fair.
You're learning.
Very fair.
Young Padawan.
Next show, Brian will be talking like Yoda.
No.
So tune in next
Qui-Gon Jinn, baby.
Okay.
Let's go. That was my favorite one.
I love it.
I actually, we were talking about this the other day. We're talking at our small group that we do at church. I was talking with this husband and wife. It was awesome. Their teenage son shows up with a Star Wars shirt on. And I was like, well done, young man. And it was like an old school Star Wars shirt. It wasn't like, Hayden Christensen or whatever, right? and they were talking about it, and I'm like, that's good parenting right there. You know what I mean? Like you're and then we're just talking about the different ones. I say, the 4, 5, and 6. I know it was technically 1, 2, and 3, but in the order in which they were released, 4, 5, and 6 were pretty awful. But that was the 3 movies where they had the best lightsaber fights. The absolute best lightsaber fight in any Star Wars production ever made was Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan against Darth Maul.
Yeah.
Like that was the best lightsaber fight of any of the movies.
Oh yeah. The prequel trilogy far and away had the best lightsaber fights. Yeah. Don't get me started on the sequels, 7, 8, 9. Those were just, I mean, I don't even know if I'd call those lightsaber fights.
No, those are just gross.
Yeah, don't get me started on those.
Yeah.
Buy, sell, hold. Texas Tech will win the Big 12.
Buy. I mean, they're still going to have a pretty loaded roster, and they really didn't play any competitive games in the Big 12 last year, outside of the one where they lost without their starting quarterback.
Yep.
I mean, they were so much greater than anybody else in the Big 12 last year that the rest of the Big 12's got to show me something before I can go there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yep.
And then buy, sell, hold. Oregon will win the Big 10.
I buy it as a possibility. I'll be honest with you, because a lot of these Big 10 teams have been playing and you've seen guys jump into the portal late, I haven't really studied what their projected rosters are going to be as much as I have teams that have already been out. Oregon lost a lot from their D-line, and then they had to go to the portal and get a lot of guys from the D-line. They lose some guys on the offensive line. I think they're going to be better at the skill positions next year. Evan Stewart's going to come back. DeCorian Moore's going to go into a second year. I think they're going to be good at running back. Dante Moore, they lose Kenyon Sadiq, but like they lost some good tight ends the year before and replaced them with Kenyon Sadiq. They've got talent at that position, right? The big question is going to be, can you overcome the loss of your coordinators, especially your offensive coordinator? And I've told you, I think Tosh got by with a lot of, you had better players than everybody you went against. And then he got exposed in the playoffs because they had to play a team that could coach better than they did, and they had the players that could match up with Oregon, and they got embarrassed. But I mean, it's possible. I'm going to sell overall. I'm going to kind of take the field here between Indiana, Ohio State. Oregon will be in the conversation, but I got some questions about their defense, and they've got to overcome losing 2 coordinators, where I actually think losing Brian Hartline is going to make Ohio State's offense better. To be honest with you, I was not a big fan of how he ran the offense this year. So, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm going to sell that as well. I think I actually have Ohio State winning the Big 10 this upcoming year.
Good stuff.
Another one from Noah. Buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame's 2 ranked wins in 2026 will come over SMU and BYU. They will beat Miami, but Miami will not be ranked by the time they clash in November.
So I still think Miami's going to be a good team next year. I mean, they were a top 15 team in 2024. This year wasn't like, where'd that come from? This wasn't like 24 Indiana. Like, they were pretty good the year before. So I'm going to sell that one.
Agreed. I'm with you. Then it would be preferable for Notre Dame team and fans to begin their season at home against Wisconsin instead of playing at Lambeau Field.
I'm going to buy where you're coming from, but I don't have a problem with what they're doing. A historic, iconic program playing in a historic, iconic stadium for the first time ever. I think that's pretty cool. I don't have a problem with it. But I also understand where you're coming from. Sure, I get that.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with it, but if I had a preference, I want as many games in Notre Dame Stadium as humanly possible.
Sure.
But
you couldn't be at home in this game because the whole deal was 2 neutral sites.
Sure.
But yeah, I get where you're coming from. It depends on if they win the game, because we've seen in the past where, like, the crowd for the Northern Illinois game was pretty pumped going into that game because they were coming off that big old win over Texas A&M. But then the crowd going into the 22 game wasn't as pumped because they were coming off of a lost Ohio State.
Sure.
And they didn't care about the opponent, So, I mean, I get that. You at least have, oh, man, did you see what they did to Wisconsin? I can't wait to see that in person. I mean, there's some of that to it as well. But I always like starting the season off at home, if possible. But I also think it's Notre Dame and you're playing in Lambeau. That's pretty awesome too. And it's also how far is Madison, Wisconsin from South Bend, Indiana? It's not that far. So it's not like you can't. It's 3 hours and 48 minutes. That's a hike. And for people that live down near you, that's also a hike. But there's enough Notre Dame fans in Chicago, which is even an hour closer in northern Indiana, that you can drive the day of the game. Like what a hotel price can be. Yeah, okay, then here's what you do. It's probably going to be a night game. So you drive there day of the game, drive an hour or two down the road, get out of the area, and then get a hotel and stay the night after the game or something. You know what I mean? Like, to save some money. But I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it. Yeah.
From With Your Chest, buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame returns best roster in college football for the 26th season.
Buy.
Yep.
Yeah, buy. Look, I think they return one of the best quarterbacks in the country, one of the most talented offensive lines, one of the most talented and deepest defensive lines. I think the best and deepest linebacker room. I think they return the best secondary in college football. And these aren't things that only I think. You're going to see them ranked very high in all these areas in the preseason magazines as well.
Yep.
Receiving core is a little bit unproven, but very talented and very deep. Same with tight end. So, honestly, my biggest question mark is kicker right now. That's really where my biggest question mark is. And as long as Spencer Porvath is a part of the team, then I'm not as worried about that anymore, to be honest with you. So, I think this is the deepest, the best roster they have. Because here's the thing. They have high-level talent. Which is important to say you have the best roster. So you say, well, Ohio State has the best player in the country. Yeah, I agree. Brandon is very talented. But Notre Dame has Leonard Moore. They have CJ Carr. You know what I mean? Like, they have their own level of elite talent coming back as well. So are you going to stack them up against Ohio State, Texas, where they're just better at every position? Probably not. But I think they're better at most, and they're certainly deeper. Look, Ohio State has a better, I would argue, top 3 at receiver. Would you agree with that?
Than Notre Dame?
Yeah, but Notre Dame's depth is insane, partly because they took some of Ohio State's depth. You know what I mean? Like, Ohio State didn't want to lose Porter and Graham, and that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Yeah, they check every box. They bring back experience. They bring back top-level talent. They bring in the number 1 recruiting class in the country, and they bring in impactful portal acquisitions. You take the name Notre Dame away from it. If they did that with Georgia would just the AP poll would already come out with their preseason top 25 rankings on January 20th, and number 1 would be Georgia. Sometimes it's just the name on it, but Notre Dame checks every single box. Again, we're talking about a team right now on FanDuel that has tied for the best odds to win the national championship in 2026. That's not because Marcus Freeman has a good fade. Like, it's not because their uniforms are cool or their helmets are iconic. It's because you look at the makeup of this team and it's like, yeah, man, like this team's built a little bit differently. That's how I look at this. So it's an absolute buy. And buy, sell, hold. Texas and Georgia are top 5 preseason teams.
Buy that. They're in the conversation. Georgia has, in my opinion, been overrated in the last couple of years. But guess what? Both years they played in the SEC championship, won the SEC championship, and finished in the top 5 of the rankings. And won a lot of big games. So I got to go with you on that. Texas obviously was disappointing this year, but they were a top 5 team the 2 previous years. So I think, Trevor, your point about Sark's got to prove he can win the big one is fair, but you could be number 4 and not prove that you can win the big one. You can still,
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, you're just not number 1, so they've been a Final Four team in 2 of the last 3 years. And last year they didn't finish. They weren't a great team, but boy, after that Georgia game, that team woke up a little bit and looked a lot better down the stretch than they did for most of the year. Now, they weren't playing great teams with the exception of A&M, but look what they did to A&M. They outplayed A&M for 4 quarters. They looked good that night. Hard to tell anything from the Michigan game because both teams were missing a bunch of dudes and, and all that stuff. But, Arch continued playing well and making plays. And so, I'm okay with both of them being top 5. I'm not ready to say they will be in my top 5. But when I look at Texas and I say they should not be number 2, it's not like, oh my gosh, they're not even a top 10 team, much less number 2. And it's like, come on, guys. Notre Dame's been better than them each of the last 2 years. Why is Notre Dame behind them right now? You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
But it's like, okay, they should be 4th or 5th or 6th, somewhere around there, not like
Yes.
13. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of where I am
Yes.
with Texas and Georgia.
Yep. That's exactly where I am with both of those two, because I always fall back on, okay, I don't think Texas should be 2, but are there 5 teams better off than them in college football? I don't know the answer to that. Probably not. Same thing with Georgia. So I get you. By so hold, the next winner of the college football playoff will be the number 1 seed again.
Yeah, I mean, because I think Notre Dame's going to go 12-0 and be the number 1 seed and then win the championship. So no, I don't know if Notre Dame's going to be the 1 seed. If there's an undefeated SEC or an undefeated Big Ten team, they'll probably be seeded higher than Notre Dame. But I think Notre Dame's got a shot to be the 1 seed. But no, next year is going to be interesting, because next year I think it's going to be more of a top-heavy year than this year. I think there's a chance for that to be the case. We'll see.
Sure.
We'll see.
Another one from With Your Chest. Buy, Sell, Hold. Oregon will be the preseason top 5 team that has the most precipitous fall from grace, a la Penn State from this year.
So, look, I've said this before, I'm not a huge Dan Lanning fan. And I have major questions about, can he win the big one? I mean, remember when I picked Oregon to win it all? What was my concern? It's Dan Lanning. Like, he was my concern. Would he have his team ready to play? But what he has not shown is this. I mean, he's at least shown his team's going to be in the top 10 every year. Are they a team I'm putting money on to win a title? Heck to the no. But I don't think they're going to be a team that falls like that. And the other thing, too, is I think they got a better quarterback than what Penn State had last year.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, man. I mean, Dan Lanning already has won more big games at Oregon than what James Franklin did almost his entire tenure in Happy Valley. It's different. Like, I don't think it's going to be that. Yeah. Nor do I think Oregon is going to have the same expectations as what Penn State had going into 2025. I just don't. Like, they'll still be high. I don't want to make it sound like the goal's the Citrus Bowl here. But, I mean, people were talking about this year being like the year that – I mean, I talked about it. Penn State, like, if it's not this year, when is it going to be for Penn State?
Didn't even get out of October.
No. So, I don't think that's the case with Oregon this year. Double Domer. When CJ leaves for the NFL draft, the next starting quarterback for Notre Dame is already on their roster.
That's similar to one we had earlier. I do buy that. I mean, if none of them project, I think Notre Dame would be silly not to look at the portal next year if they're not 100% confident in the next group like they were in CJ and Kenny and Steve. Yeah. Mainly CJ, with all due respect. So for now, I buy that.
Purple and Gold. Love how you spelled gold. Is this a new board subscriber? Did they change their name?
She is not. I think if this is who I think it is, I don't think she is. I think this is her first. Let me just go check real quick. Might be her first buy sell hold. But I could be wrong. I'm gonna go look that one up real quick.
Still, buy sell hold from Purple and Gold. The state of Indiana and its residents collectively are now a football state or football first state, as opposed to a basketball state or basketball first state. At the collegiate level, buy. But like high school, this is still a predominantly high school basketball state. But if we're just talking college, then yes, buy.
I mean, look, if you're talking about like high school, I would tend to agree with you. But if we're talking to college sports, that's a no-brainer. It's a football state now. Yeah, this is not who I thought it was. This is not a she. This is a he. And so my bad on that. There's another Purple and Gold one, and this is a new member. Yeah, signed up on January 5th.
Right on.
Welcome. Yeah. But yeah, as far as college sports, 100%. High school sports, heck no. It's like, no, man. I just can't take a state seriously where everybody makes the playoffs. We just can't do it. High school football, just can't do it. But college football, I mean, there's no doubt. Notre Dame's basketball teams are Indiana's basketball team is very mid. I think they're like what? I think I saw that they're scheduled to play Michigan tonight or tomorrow, and they're like 12-6. You know, so yeah, they're 12-6. They play tonight at Michigan, and you know, their basketball team's not good. They've lost to Minnesota, Louisville, Kentucky, Nebraska, Michigan State, and Iowa just smoked them. Their most recent game, so they're probably going to get smoked again tonight. But yeah, I mean, it's a football state. You've had in the last 2 years, the number 1 or number 2 team each year has been a team from Indiana. Notre Dame finished number 2 last year. Indiana finished number 1 this year. So,
bang.
Yeah.
Another one from Purple and Gold. Buy, sell, hold. Even though I watched most, if not all, Notre Dame games and am a fan, I'm still an LSU first guy. And I'm here for a reason. The content as a whole, not even limiting it to Notre Dame football, and its quality is top notch.
I appreciate that. I buy that. So that would explain the purple and gold. It's an LSU fan. So I appreciate that. Appreciate that very much.
That's awesome. Sergeant Steve Irish, buy, sell, hold. When you see Aeneas Williams, you see a resemblance to Kyron.
Oh, gosh, yes. Buy. I mean, body type, running style. I'd say Kyron was a little bit more elusive. Aeneas can be more vertical, but there's a lot of similar traits. They were both very good pass catchers, both tough as nails. They'll run through a brick wall for you.
Yeah.
Both very smart football players, maybe not elite athletes, but smart football players. I think Aeneas is a better athlete than Kyron. Does he have those intangibles that Kyron had? We're going to find out, but very, very, very similar. Very similar to those. Yeah, I mean, it's almost lazy to make that comparison because it's like Williams, Notre Dame. But honestly, I don't know that you can have a better comparison for Kyron for Aeneas than Kyron. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, their games are similar, like jack of all trades type. They're great in pass protection. There's a reason Aeneas Williams was the starting third down running back as a true freshman. Like that's and like retook that over from Devin Ford, who was like a 5th-year transfer. Like that wasn't an accident. So yeah, I buy that as well.
Yeah.
Another one from Sergeant Steve. If Notre Dame wins the 2026 national championship, key assistants will get poached for other jobs.
Buy. Yeah, I mean, if they win the title next year, that's an absolute buy.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Yeah, there's no question. I'm shocked they don't have more of their assistant coaches getting poached now. But I've got some thoughts on that. I think some guys are very loyal. No one's going to approach Mike Denbrock because they know he's not going anywhere. Some other guys, you know, like I'm really surprised Gino Guidugli hasn't gotten in more attention as an offensive coordinator. Very surprised. You know, yeah. Yeah. By the way, Steve, I couldn't fit your other message on here, man, but I'm sorry to hear you're going through a tough time, brother, and we will absolutely be praying for you. And I know you, Steve is a vet, and obviously he deals with a lot of issues from his time defending our country. So we'll be praying for you, brother, and we hope that you pull through the tough time you're going through. But we appreciate the fact that you are still with us talking football, man. We really do appreciate that. Absolutely.
From Strikers for Irish, buy, sell, hold. Who will most likely go to the NFL first? Freeman, Cignetti, or Kiffin?
Unfortunately, I got to buy Freeman, hold Kiffin, and sell Cignetti. I think I take Cignetti at his word when he says I'm not an NFL coach. I absolutely take him at 62 years old. I take him at his word.
Yep, agreed. And buy, sell, hold. From Don, excuse me. Buy, sell, hold. Keon Keeley outperforms Josh Burnham this upcoming season.
If we talk about what Josh did last year, that's a potential buy. If we talk about what Josh is going to do at Indiana this year compared to what Keon's going to do, I need to see it first. I mean, Josh Burnham in the last 2 years was a very good football player for Notre Dame. Very clutch football player for Notre Dame. Not just productive, but clutch. And Keon Keeley has flashed, but he's got a lot to prove. Now, does Keon Keeley have the talent to outperform Josh Burnham if he puts in the work and takes the coaching and they work with him and stuff? Oh, absolutely he does. But I just watched Indiana put 2 dogs on the field at defensive end. And Pat Kuntz, for Notre Dame player, Pat Kuntz is their D-line coach. He's done a great job coaching up that D-line. And Josh has a good foundation. Now he's going to take it to another level, play more. He's going to have to stay healthy, though. That's going to be the big thing for Josh. Is he's got to be able to stay healthy. That's something he hasn't been able to do last year. And he hasn't got like bad injuries, but he missed like what, 4 games in 2024. He wasn't full speed for, about half the season this year and all those type of things. But I mean, Keon's got to show me some. Keon has all the talent in the world to be a star at Notre Dame, but I know what Josh Burnham is. Keon's got to show me he can be that. So I'll buy it as a possibility. But if I was betting my mortgage on, I would never do that. That's an even absurd thing to even say. But if I had to predict what I'm more confident in, Josh Burnham having a breakout year at Indiana or Keon having a breakout year at Notre Dame, I'm more confident that Josh is going to do that when you combine his talent plus what he's already shown me as a football player. If you were to say, okay, but what if we just went on upside? Well, then it's Keon. But right now, Keon is still about potential where Josh is, to a degree, a proven commodity. I mean, you could argue in the last 5 games of the year, Josh Burnham was their best defensive lineman. You can make a strong argument that was the case. And how many weeks did we complain about, like, the guy gets in for 7 plays and make 3 of them are big plays? Like, can we please play him more? And then what happened the first game they played him more? He had like 4 tackles for loss and 2 sacks. I mean, he was crazy. Can Keon do that? Yeah, he can. But he's got to show it to me. Where Josh is like, dude, just keep doing what you're doing, but now you're going to do it on a more, full-time basis. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm with that completely. From Connor Fitch, buy, sell, hold. Quincy Porter will have more total yards than Aeneas Williams.
Sell. Unless there's some sort of injury, I'll sell that.
And the Notre Dame running game will look similar to how Alabama did it in 2014.
I'm going to sell that because I got to look up Bama's stats, but my first thought is, didn't their quarterback Blake Sims run the ball a decent amount in 2014?
A decent amount. He finished the season with 83 carries, 350 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Their 2 leading rushers were Derrick Henry and TJ Yeldon. Yeah,
I just don't see CJ Carr having that kind of production. Now, from the standpoint of could 2 guys go for 900 yards in 14 games, that's possible. It's not going to look like what they did, though. Those are 2 hammers. I mean, Derrick Henry and TJ Yeldon were 6'2" hammers. Notre Dame's going to have 1 hammer and 1 guy that does a little bit different. So, no, I don't. They were also, if I remember correctly, Trev, more of a gap scheme. Powers, counters, traps, things like that. Inside zone. This is going to look a little bit different. So, no, I'll sell that. And, again, I don't think CJ is going to do what Blake. And Blake Sims being a running threat also made it harder to defend the running backs. So, I'm going to sell that one.
Agreed. I think it's going to look a little bit more like what Georgia did on their 2 national championship teams.
I can see
21 and 22, especially 21. Buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame's wide receiver room will be the deepest in college football.
Deepest in numbers, sure. I mean, they got 15 flipping scholarship players now.
Yeah,
how deep will it be from a production standpoint? That remains to be seen. But look, in all seriousness, just pure talent, it's in the conversation. It's not a given, but it's in the conversation. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oops.
Buy, sell, hold from No Mont, Notre Dame's wide receiver room.
There's a couple of them that are, the next page will kind of, I didn't have enough room for all of them, so they're all about the receiver room. There's 3 of them.
Sounds good. 1 individually, I'm assuming, not buy 1, sell 1, hold 1. Cool.
Yep. There's 3 different things that are complete. Yeah. So, yep, you are correct, sir.
This group finally features multiple receivers capable of turning a routine 5-yard slant into a 40-yard headache for opposing defenses.
100%. I mean, look, just the known commodities can do that. I mean, we saw Jaden Greathouse do that against Ohio State twice. We saw him do that. Like you were talking about this the other day and late in 2024, they were starting to run a lot more tunnel screens to him where he was catching the ball and making plays. Jordan Faison can do that. Mylan Graham can definitely do that. I think Quincy Porter brings some of that ability. Cam Williams has that potential. Logan Saldate has that potential. Caden Finley has that potential. There's no question that they have that ability. There's no doubt about it. Yes. Buy that.
Absolute buy. Then you factor in guys like Bubba Frazier, Braden Robinson. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not even counting those guys yet. Exactly. Yeah. I didn't mention Logan Saldate is another one. Micah Gilbert has a little bit of that, but not like, I don't know, about 40 yards. You can take a 5-yard slant, break 3 tackles, and gain 15 for sure.
Yeah.
And we saw how important that was last night for Indiana and Miami. I mean, that was the
Mm-hmm.
RPOest game I've ever seen in my life with those two teams.
Oh,
You know, it was crazy.
On offense, Indiana was inside run, RPO, back shoulder. Like
Yeah,
that was there.
that was it.
Miami just couldn't stop it.
That was it. Yeah.
By so hold, Notre Dame now has receivers who can win with size, leverage, and pure athleticism on fade routes, back shoulder throws, and crossers.
Yes, that one not as much as the first one. There is some of that, but Greathouse can do that. We know that. And I think Quincy Porter has the potential to do that. Micah Gilbert surprisingly has to show me a lot of improvement in that kind of area.
Yeah.
He does not. He's got the tools to do it, but he doesn't fight for the ball the way I need him to fight for the ball. I don't know if Cam Williams has that ability or not. You know, I don't think Mylan Graham's a back shoulder winner of contested balls. He's got to show me that. I think right now the only guy that I know confidently can do that is Jaden Greathouse. I think Quincy Porter has the tools to do it. He just hasn't been asked to do it in college. You look at his high school film and he does that 3 times a game.
Yeah.
But this is not high school football. So they have that, but I don't know that it's, I mean, the whole premise of the question is kind of like, now has the receivers. I don't know that I would compare what they have now to, for example, when they had Miles Boykin and Chase Claypool on the same lineup, or even when they had Javon McKinley and Ben Skoranek in 2020. I don't even know if you're going to be better than that. So we've seen years where they were better at that and had more known commodities than what I know that they have right now. So, I need to see a little bit more from them on that one.
I do too. I mean, you could argue that outside of Malachi Fields, the player with the best contested catch last year out of the receiving room was Jordan Faison against Stanford.
Oh, that was a great catch.
Yeah. I mean, so
I still say the one-handed catch against Pitt was for Malachi was still taking the cake for me. That was,
I said outside of Malachi.
Yeah. Outside of Malachi.
Yeah. But that catch was
because Jaden had the one against A&M, and then he had the one he had against Arkansas was pretty ridiculous too. But that catch that he had against Stanford was absolutely tremendous. Tremendous.
And by so hold, a few players still take snaps off when the ball isn't headed their way, and that limits the overall effectiveness of the run game and screen packages.
It depends on how many. Look, listen, there's never been a receiving core on the planet that doesn't have snaps where they take off. I'm just telling you right now. I've never seen that. It's the volume of it that can be the problem. And that's more of my thing. So, but if they play the type of rotation I hope they play, then you'll see a lot less of that from guys.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yep. And it's like, because the starter's going to be like, man, like let's say Jordan Faison's your starting Z. I'm just using him as an example. He's the leading receiver. And so I think this example works best for him because like he's the guy coming back. So, let's say Jordan has a tendency to take some snaps off because he's playing 60 snaps a game and he knows he's the number 4 read or whatever the reason, that he would do it last year. And they put Mylan in now for 12, 13 snaps a game. But when Mylan goes in there, he catches 4 balls and he's making big time plays. Now Jordan's going to be like, okay, well, when I go back in there, I can't be taking, you know what I mean? So, like, I think competition makes everybody better. Jordan knew he wasn't coming off the field last year. So when you're not coming off the field, I'm not even talking about from a bad attitude standpoint, like, oh, I'm not coming off the field. I don't have to work hard. I mean, dude, I'm playing 60 snaps. I got to pace myself on a couple of these. And so maybe this backside 20-yard comeback, I might not run at full speed since I know based on the coverage, I'm not the primary target. Like I kind of get that to a degree. I don't like it as a receivers coach, but I get it.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, take 15 snaps off of Jordan Faison. That does not mean he can't have the same level of production. It might mean he might need fewer catches to have that same level of production. Instead of having 60 yards on 6 catches, he may get it on 3 because he's fresher and he can make guys miss and do different things. So I think there's certainly benefits for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
From James Costanzo, buy so hold, Boubacar Traore will have more than 10 sacks.
Buy.
Yep.
He was, 7.5 last year, and he played 11 games.
Mm-hmm.
If they'd have played 4 more in the postseason, I'm pretty confident the Boubacar would have had 10+ sacks this year.
Agreed.
So I'll buy that.
Buy, sell, hold. Notre Dame goes undefeated in 2026.
Hey, brother, I'm saying day one of the offseason is today, right? Technically, day one of the offseason for college football is today. Title game was last night. I am not shying away from the fact that I just don't know how this team loses a game next year. As long as this team keeps the fire that I think it has right now, I think this team has a chance to be special. So yeah, I'll buy that, buddy. I'll absolutely buy that.
Love it.
No doubt about it. Yeah.
Then Notre Dame finishes with a top 5 defense nationally in 2026.
Take a shot at that one, Trev.
Depending on the category, yes. I mean, Brian talked earlier about the article that I put out. I think it would greatly benefit it greatly increase their chances of winning a national title if they were a top 5 run defense in college football next year. There's some other categories that, like, they don't have to finish top 5 in pass defense efficiency. But in some key areas, if they finish top 5 in explosive plays allowed, top 5 in rush defense, top 5 in turnovers gained, top 5 in third down defense, yeah. So by and large, I buy that. Yards per play allowed, but like I don't pay too much attention to like, hey, they rank top 5 in total yards per game. It's more so some of the efficiency numbers.
Yeah, I think efficiency numbers for sure. Scoring, I feel pretty decent about that. Again, this is the assumption that if Chris Ash does the all year like he did in the 7 games, I think part of it too is I don't know that offenses are going to be as good on the schedule next year will be as good as the ones they face this year too. That's another factor here for me. But I'll buy that. Like if we're looking at like the FEI, the Fermo Efficiency Index, the FPI, what other efficiency numbers you want to look at? Yeah, I think they'll be there. Absolutely. Yeah. Now, that's the final question that we made a card for. I did want to say this one thing. There was a Bisa hold that came in after the show started from Stubbs. And he says Notre Dame's model for building their roster will prove to be the gold standard in the long run. Programs that want instant gratification via the portal instead of high school recruiting will suffer in the long run. We're not going to answer that one right now because we are going to do a segment on that this offseason. We're going to talk about if Notre Dame does go out and run the table this year, what will that mean for college football and why people need to stop looking at one or the other and understand that it's got to be different for different people. Indiana, for example, will never be able to win a championship building their team the same way Notre Dame does and the same way Georgia does. It's impossible.
Agreed.
But there are other teams who hurt themselves by so focusing on the portal that I think they lose sight of player development. I think Louisville's an example of that. I wish Jeff Brom would do more of blending high school recruiting and portal recruiting. I do. I think it would help him. Other places, I think there's similar issues. But at the end of the day, if Notre Dame wins it next year, you argue that 3 of the last 4 champions were teams that built through high school recruiting first and foremost, and portal supplemented it, right? Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame. But you also can't ignore the fact that Indiana won it building through the portal, and the last 2 winners that built through high school recruiting, Ohio State and Notre Dame, needed important portal additions to then get over the top. Ohio State look, Will Howard, Quinshaw Junkins, Davidson Igbignosin, and Caleb Downs were huge portal additions for those teams. Do they win the title without those 4 guys? I don't think that they do. Just like Notre Dame's not playing for the title last year if they didn't add Riley Leonard and Bo Collins. Who had the think about that stretch of a minute where a 3-3 game turned into a 20-3 game. You had I believe that RJ had the sack, correct?
Yes.
So a transfer kicker makes a field goal to make it 6-3. A transfer defensive end has a strip sack. A transfer quarterback then throws a touchdown pass to a transfer wide receiver to make it 13-3. And then a transfer kick returner returns to the house to make it 20-3. You got to do both. The degree to which you do both is going to be something that we'll discuss, and what's best and what's not best. What's best for Notre Dame? What's best big picture? And maybe some teams that we think need to be portal teams, and some teams that we wish would be more high school focused. And that is going to be a very fun show. that we're going to do here over the next couple weeks. So I did want to, that's why I'm not going to really address your question, because I think we're going to do a whole show about it. I think, and it's like Anthony Easton's at Louisville fan says, recruiting high school is harder for us non-blue bloods, though. Agree. And so my thing is, I don't think Louisville needs to do it the way that Notre Dame does it. What I'm saying is more, though, right? Like, find that balance where you're not bringing in 30-plus portal guys a year. Louisville needs the portal more than Notre Dame does, but I think they're going away too much away from high school recruiting and relying too much on the portal. And that's the point, that the conversation that we'll have. And I think you even see Indiana's doing that, right? Indiana just signed a top 25 caliber high school recruiting class, because I think Signetti knows eventually we want to have a foundation of guys that have come through the program that complements the portal guys. And the perfect example is Mike Norvell. He was able to climb up through portal recruiting, but then, because he was able to kind of combine, hey, we had a good culture, we had the right guys, but when all those guys left and it was a brand new team the next year that didn't buy into the culture, they went from 13-1 to 2-10.
Oh yeah.
And 5-7 this year with pictures of kids laughing at him on the sideline when he's trying to give motivational stuff. Why? Because you think a defensive player would have laughed like that 2 years ago with Jared Verse and what was the guy's name? Was it Braden Fisk? You think you've seen the linebacker laughing on the sidelines like that 2-3 years ago? Heck no, because they had a culture that was established, and it can be very hard to do that consistently when you're relying on the portal as heavily as they are.
Agreed.
And so that's where I'm coming from. So it'll be a fun conversation. I think some people disagree with it. Some people like it. I think it's going to be a fun conversation that I don't know that we have the answers of what's best necessarily, one answer. And so it's going to be a fun show. So I'm looking forward to having that show, Trev, for sure. And it's going to be one of many awesome off-season shows that we have. But that is going to do it for today. No PM show tonight, by the way. Everybody's sick. Sean's sick and Vince are both sick. So no IB Nation Sports Talk tonight. So you get the night off.
Well, until tomorrow, Brian and I will be back. We're talking what? Outlook of the 2026 Notre Dame offense.
We're gonna take a dive into the kind of a big picture dive into the Notre Dame offense. Yep, it's gonna be fun.
Love it. Well, on your way out of here, folks, please be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell, share this podcast with your friends and family, anybody that you know loves Notre Dame and college football as much as you do. But as always, now that it's the offseason, officially now the offseason since the national championship game was yesterday, the best way to stay in tune with Notre Dame football and the best way to support what we do here is subscribe to the premium message boards at boards.irishbreakdown.com. Until tomorrow, that's Brian. I'm Trevor. We'll see you back here very soon on the Irish Breakdown Podcast.